Yeah, my impression in brief is that the judge wants to get out almost as badly as I do. I don't want to get out so badly that I'm willing to be time closed and screwed even further, but I do want to get out pretty badly. And the judge is maybe slightly less than me, and he's looking for a legally compliant exit. I don't think this fellow wants to have any of his decisions overturned on appeal. Now, there's other objections, and there may be potential appeals, and I'm not sure how that holds things up one way or the other. I guess it depends on the structure and nature of those potential proceedings. But that's pretty much what I got. Rupee, Cam Cruz, please, I'd love to hear from you guys.
Hey, Tecmo, hey, Mustard, and Lawrence. How's everyone today?
Very well. How about you?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Happy to see you decided to host another Celsius space. Pretty sweet. Thanks, Tecmo. Yeah, who knows where we're at, man? I don't know. Reading body language at yesterday's hearing was, I don't know. White and Case seemed Aaron Kolodny was very frustrated, and the dude from K&E as well. Either seemed frustrated or not sure. So trying to read the room there or read the courtroom, and I don't think it's looking too positive. Let's say for December 21st, setting an effective date. That's just my impression, though. Not necessarily need to. You got to take that with a grain of salt. Let's just say that. That was just my impression. And Judge, I don't know, man. He just says he just wants to continuously follow the law as it's written, pretty much. And so I'm not 100% sure, that of course he wants to get out. He wants to get creditors' money. I think that any human being would have that. But also, I think these lawyers know how to extend and extend and extend, and keep the party rolling. And the judge is there to kind of let it be, and it's kind of crazy, and but we'll see. So I don't know. I have a feeling though Kolodny and K&E definitely heard of what we're talking about on X. It seemed like, but I don't know. So, but that was slightly comical yesterday, seeing those guys a little fidgety.
Ruby, it's interesting you say that though, because when I'm not sure if you were in the room when Mustard was talking, and he was saying that he feels hopeful that he'll go ahead on the 21st. So, just having kind of kept up with the case on Twitter, that is what causes a lot of confusion, I guess. Do you know what I mean? And I guess you both were seeing the same thing.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know. It's kind of how I read it, and but yeah, I mean, 100%. K&E and White and Case are, taking the bull by the horns, and they're hoping to ride it. And the problem is that there's quite a few other people there that really can turn it down, which they've already have. And the discovery hearing yesterday was kind of a joke as well. It was kind of just a show and a nothing burger at the end of the day. And then extending the substantial contribution hearing to focus on trying to get this modified plan approved by December 21st. Listen, I think we're all hopeful for it. Everybody wants it. I would assume, whether it's the orderly wind down, no matter what. So we're going to be getting, and I think that I mean, if they just reduce the amount of money to fund the new mining co, I don't see why the modified plan wouldn't be approved. But we don't know. I mean, to me, I think the hurdle is to justify why they want to still have 225 million from the creditors, whereas the original OWD plan just had 50 million. So, but I don't know. I am getting pessimistic, a little tired. It's just crazy. It's repeating all the time, which liquidation should have happened before. I was one of the guys, Tecmo says, hey, there's a select few that, kind of took the orange pill and, was like, okay, if liquidation isn't going to be it, then give us Nuco and cross our fingers. It's really what it is. Because if anybody reads Keith's data, it's a little disheartening. But at the end of the day, give me a public co over private equity, because private equity really, unless they're going to be giving us dividends in that private equity, to just let the machines run until they're completely unprofitable, and we're just getting whatever little Bitcoin that they're producing, split among the creditors, then I think we're just kind of wasting our money there, and. But that's just my 2 cents, But yeah, I'd still take a public over private. Simply, NASDAQ has got a ton of liquidity. And I think some people fail to, to understand that. And not saying that, obviously there's a lot of shell companies, but I mean, believe it or not, there's a lot of shell companies that are actually worth something too, which is kind of crazy. So that's why I believe we'd be able to have some liquidity at least. If you wanted to sell, you could sell. If you wanted to hold it for a bit and cross your fingers for a bull run, then you could do that too. But yeah, I'll take public over private. But I don't. It's obviously not my decision. It's not any of our decisions, and it's what K&E and White and Case are trying to do at the moment. I just hope that they have Plan Z ready. So if it does get denied, it's like, okay, fine. We tried, but let's still set an effective date. We're just going to fund the 50 million as what was in the OWD, and and they worked it out with US Bitcoin instead of the other manager. I can't recall the name off the top of my head, and so be it. I think the U.S. trustee is going to object to everything anyway, all the time, as far as that. And I
Ruby,
don't
how
know.
much? Sorry, just how much weight do you think that has, though? Like, that's what I'm trying to understand. Is like those objections. How much weight do you think they
Supposedly,
will?
yeah, supposedly the weight, like if I'm taking your question properly, I think it was 17.5% of your claim was going to go into shares of public Nuco. Was that kind of
Oh
your
no,
question?
no. I'm sorry. What I mean is like the objections that come in on the 21st. How how likely do you think they are to change the course of that kind of confirmation of the back of the 21st, basically? If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I believe the U.S. trustee, objected to the plan all the way up until the end. Can correct me, or somebody can correct me, but I don't even know if she ever really gave the green light. But the judge did. So it's ultimately, the judge. But of course, they have to work with her. But I'm not. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe she did go with the end. I don't know. She's been fighting tooth and nail
No,
with
Ruby, she said
Celsius.
yesterday they're going to be filing an objection. It'll be on the docket. They're going to be filing an objection.
Oh yeah, 100%. They
Yeah.
filed an
So I mean that's
objection to the
whether
confirmed plan as well.
yeah, whether it's got legs or not is another question. Think of the look on Adler's face when they said that they'd reached a settlement with Brick, because basically that puts him back to now he's not sure how his objection plays, because he was objecting to that. They got the okay for discovery subject to certain limitations, blah 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 blah, and they're going to share some information there. What else is left, Ruby? Galaxy, or
Hours. I mean, we'll
you think
know in just
where's
a few
where's
hours.
Cagney and Figure? Where's Cagney and Figure? Where's his objection? Where's his motion?
I don't know. Supposedly he's been working with them. I mean, that's what he's been tweeting about, or posting about. So so we'll see. Again, I think his has to be in today by 4 or 5 as
Well,
well.
it's
So
all got to be in the next 2 hours. So
yeah,
there you are.
exactly, exactly. So, but yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we're definitely coming up to the end. But Lawrence, man, don't. I don't know. Yeah, don't set high hopes in distribution in January. And I don't want to be Debbie Downer completely, but even if they did say, hey, we're going to start distributions in January, it very well could be just getting distributions sent out to all the convenience class, and that's the start. Simply because they have nothing to do with Newco and can just be paid out.
But
But I don't know.
Ruby, from my understanding though, if it gets confirmed on the 21st or there or thereabouts, we're then locked in. Well, I know it's 15 days out, kind of the price gets locked in, but the idea of it is then locked in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, if I understood you correctly, sorry, there's a lot of background noise there, but the pricing that they're going to use is going to be the 15 days prior to the effective date, and then from there, we'll be able to really calculate almost to the exact percentage what we're going to be getting as a recovery. Hey, Joe,
Hey guys, how's it going?
are you back on U.S. soil?
So
I'm back in home turf. Got back a few days
I
ago.
didn't say anything. I don't know what you're talking about. I might have told Jonathan.
So, did I answer your question, Lawrence? Was that your question?
Yeah, no, it was. It's just kind of at this point we're just going to get over the line. So yeah, it was just kind of basically how many things are in the way of us confirming this plan and just moving on. Is ultimately the question.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's been the same things that's been in our way for the last year, and it's lawyers and professionals.
I think we should all object If we all object, then we can keep pieces, the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years.
Now that the prisoner's dilemma will never allow that, Joe.
What are we gonna do with all our free
Out.
time when this is over?
Yeah, all our free time, right? Now, you're still going to have some? Are you still going to have some time tied up observing Brick? Do you know?
As of now, that's the way they proposed it, but things change, so who knows?
Let me ask you this: without putting your foot in it, is it? Well, no, that's the wrong way to phrase it. You know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna put your tit in a ringer like mine.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, the people that still want to object, I get all the criticisms, but what are you going to get at the end of the day, other than a lot more time and money spent?
Yeah. Well, at this point, they're honestly, I don't know. I'd have to see the objections. I mean, I find the whole situation objectionable from the get, but as you say, there's very little we can do to affect it any more in our favor. As I mentioned a little while ago to Lawrence, I mean, best thing maybe is just walk up to the counter and take what they hand you and move on from there. At least then we can move on, and maybe we will have a little free time.
That would be way too boring.
Not for you. You're always up to exciting stuff. Don't kid me. Also, you have the delightful outlook of continuing to work with Chris Ferraro. Apparently, he's going to still be the plant administrator. Is that right?
I wasn't clear with the changes yesterday. I guess we're waiting for the term sheet to really understand how that's going to work. What they were contemplating for Chris Ferraro, a lot of that is going to be going to Brick now. So I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, that's why I kind of figured he'd return to his apples. But honestly, I don't know. They're keeping other aspects of it as well, and the popular ones, such as yourself, and some of the less popular ones.
That's it. If this all ends, we can go apple
As you
picking.
say, it's up to the term sheet. We have to get it in writing. Before we can find out how we like them apples, we'll have to see it in writing.
Yeah, to me, it's just it's one big risk assessment, and as we've seen, everything in this process is more complicated and more expensive than it should be. So, we're talking about a difference of a couple of percent that's going to maybe a plan that we didn't think it would go to. I don't know. Also, to me, it was very clear when they set up this orderly wind down with Brick. They actually put it in the disclosure statement that it's going to be subject to market testing, and Brick themselves can be replaced. So, they got stuck with this SEC issue last minute, and they tried to rework it as quickly as possible to get it pushed through, so we're not stuck in here. And I get why everybody's upset. I am as well, but again, it comes down to a risk assessment, and if it means digging deeper into every interaction and transaction that they're trying to get through here, I don't know that we're going to gain anything. So. The same way we decided when it came to the vote that it's just time to get out at all costs. I don't think that's changed. It's just very hard because we thought we were finally there. We were done.
Sure. And then like I say, unfortunately, this thing is dragged on for a long time. Can you imagine if they'd have declared it a Ponzi a year ago and started unwinding it? That would have been something.
Hey, sorry to interject here for Joe. Where are we right now? Are we headed towards the orderly wind down? I think a lot of creditors have partially checked out. So could you, where do we stand? Are we headed towards the orderly wind down? Is there still a new NewCo? Just in plain English, where are we headed?
It's hard to tell. The way I read it in court yesterday, they are, first of all, they are structuring this as an orderly wind down, even though it looks different than the one that they drafted, which again, to me, it was clear it was not going to end up that way. If we went to an orderly wind down, that draft was going to change significantly, which it did. Unfortunately, though, Brick, it seemed to me, didn't play ball, and instead they decided to just litigate to get what they can out of the estate. And what it seems like they're getting out of it is a settlement where they take over part of the ongoing tasks that need to be done, which is good. As upset as I am with how Brick handled this, we need to settle as much as we can so that the judge and the trustee don't object to I think if I'm reading it right, if all the creditors, all the ad hocs came and said, we don't care about the changes, we're upset, but we don't care, we just want to get out, I think the trustee may do their objections just to cover their butts like they usually do, but they're not really. They'll get steamrolled right over by the judge. If there are a lot of parties objecting, and you have loans ad hoc objecting, then it's going to be a long drawn out process that will probably get us no better, and we'll be spending a lot more time together, and a lot more money on not getting a better outcome. So again, like, I just hope that with the brick settlement, everybody else kind of falls in line and doesn't hedge their bets and starts working with all the different, Cagney could be great, and it could be, he has a lot of creative ideas that could have worked, but at this stage in the game, we just need to get out.
Yeah, and is there a chance that the SEC railroads the orderly wind down as well? Is that a realistic possibility?
Hard to call that one. None of us called them getting in the way literally a day after we finally got approval. This was discussed with them for 6 months. They knew that the books were a mess. They knew we were in bankruptcy and there was a lot of fraud. They could have just come out with a straight out, no, don't even try to get this waiver 6 months ago. Instead, they waited till, we spent all this time and money developing this plan, getting it approved, voting, and then like a day later, they, messed us up. It was pretty ridiculous. So it's hard to know, but I'm hoping that they're signaling thus far with the modified plan is not going to change, meaning that they'll allow it to go through.
We supposedly had the best of the best working on it, but I'm not going to open that can of worms. Shout out to Cam Cruz, Line of Creditors. What's up, Cam?
Hey, what's up, Alan? The best of the best. I actually do think the professionals working the case are pretty strong professionally, but they're representing their clients, and there have been indecisiveness in terms of first going with Nova Wolf and then doing this auction and dumping Nova Wolf for Fahrenheit, proceeding with a plan that didn't have the SEC on board. There have been some conspiracy theories about that, whether they were sitting on the information from the SEC. I can tell from what I know, at least if that were the case, most of the people involved don't see that as what happened. I suppose there could have been a small group of people that may have had communications that sat on it. But the basic feedback is that this is something that they didn't want, and it's obviously embarrassing. So to accuse people of intentionally setting up this embarrassing situation doesn't seem likely. But again, it's not responsible to have pursued a plan without being certain that it was viable, because now we're in a situation that just is not good. We burned extra time, extra money for a bad outcome. It's interesting, though, because I feel like prior to yesterday's 3 p.m. hearing, I was pessimistic about avoiding resolicitation. The fact that you had both Galaxy and Brick queuing up to do depositions, that wasn't a good sign, and that could have dragged this out. The good thing is, I overheard, I think it was Rupi saying that yesterday was a bit of a disappointment because nothing really happened. That's actually a good thing, because it means that behind the scenes, the two sides negotiated to not escalate, because there were going to be depositions on Tuesday, I think it was, and they got called off effectively because the different parties were negotiating. So that's a positive sign to avoid resolicitation. I'm not high on this mining company, but like many of you have said, just getting out at this point, even if you're lighting $225 million on fire, probably still better than dragging this out and trying to pursue something else. So I feel like my estimates were more like 75% chance of resolicitation until yesterday's hearing. And now I think it flipped more the other way, because it seems like the two sides, Brick at least, has stood down. And I think Galaxy wound up also pulling back. So it seems like the UCC and their representation were the debtors. I'm not sure which between them, probably more the UCC at this point, we're able to negotiate with those two parties and avoid a situation where we're kind of being held hostage while these different parties negotiate better terms for themselves. So all in all, yesterday being quiet was a good thing, I think, for us all.
Appreciate the update. I think their plan of getting a lot of creditors to check out, just from the long, tedious process is working. I know for myself, it's just been, it's too hard to follow. It's too complicated. There's too many moving parts, and it's been too long. At this point, I just want to, like you said, I just want to get out.
Are the parts actually moving though?
Good point.
Maybe just the goalpost.
Cam, I am happy to hear that your kind of odds, your psychological odds flipped for resolicitation. And I mean, do you actually think do you actually think the UCC would go ahead with a resolicitation? I mean, you would think that they'd get the memo, like creditors just want to get out, and if that's liquidation, it's liquidation. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the trouble is that they've positioned this mining only company as the orderly wind down, which to me is just very confusing because, I mean, it was apparently written into the plan that we all voted on, but we were more focused on option A versus the fallback option. And just looking at the title of orderly wind down, you would expect an actual winding down versus spinning up a new company to exist in the long term. That's not really a wind down, is it? So, and they didn't, part of the terms that they were meant to adhere to for the wind down was to reach out to certain parties that were attending mediation, and they didn't fulfill that. So it's strange to position us as an orderly wind down when they didn't tick off all those boxes. Now, I don't think it's necessarily that big of a deal that they didn't talk to all parties, but because they were mostly negotiating with the EARN ad hoc. And I think the individual parties were myself, Manny, and Daniel Frischberg, just because we attended the mediation, if I recall correctly. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, I don't mind not getting consulted. I didn't negotiate for that. I think it was just thrown into the terms during the mediation session. Like, I'm not part of the EARN ad hoc, and I was there, so they threw that in there. But it is interesting that they were at least contractually supposed to reach out, and they didn't. So to call it a wind down without adhering to that is a little bit strange. But we've been hearing the term of fitting within the four corners of the orderly wind down. So let's hope that they can draw their squares correctly. Just have to hope for the best at this point.
Yep, the good old word, hope. That's what I feel we've been saying for the last 18 months. Hope, hope, hope. But yeah, no, still, because it's just hard for me to believe that we'd have to go through a resolicitation. Hey, Simon, happy Thursday. How you doing, man?
Hey, Rupy, always good to hear from you. I can share a few thoughts on all the different things that I heard when I jumped in, if you like.
Yeah.
So first thing on SEC. There's no such thing as pre-clearance. That doesn't exist as a concept. SEC will never give you an answer until you submit exactly what you're asking for. And so they've got this thing called a no action letter, which is where you say, we're exempt from regulations. Are you going to sue us if we do what we say we're going to do in this letter? And they can issue a no action letter. But that's only if you're exempt from regulations. If you want to be regulated, there's no such thing as pre-clearance. It doesn't exist. They'll never make a determination until you send in the actual application. And so the SEC, while Judge Glenn was calling out, they'll say, yeah, but I can't comment on something where I haven't actually seen it. And you can't actually submit it until you've actually got the full plan. And there's no such thing as like a half-baked plan. There is a concept of having relationships and having meetings and letting them know your plan is coming, which is what I believe they did. And so that was always going to be a thing. But I do agree, it's disingenuous. They could have just said e-staking isn't happening quite a long time ago, and that would have saved a bunch of the process. But yeah, that's the pre-clearance side. On the brick side, so firstly, the orderly wind down for 50 million, that never existed. This was when we did the whole reservation of rights. This is when I entered into a pretty aggressive argument with the UCC, and this was around about the time when we had to hire counsel, because we were going at it pretty aggressively at that stage. And one of the things is I was trying to get it, and the Earn ad hoc were trying to get it, where we could actually control the toggle between the ad hocs, and Celsius just wouldn't concede on that. But what they weren't going to ask for 50 million. They were going to ask for 50 million plus a loan, and those loan terms were never entered into the plan. And so why was that? Because, well, essentially Fahrenheit overpromised and underdelivered. We all knew that the public offering wasn't going to happen by the end of last year. And somehow we kind of bought into that concept. I don't think I ever fully bought into it, but the certainty that they gave in their communications kind of led us to believe that they had some kind of secret weapon that was going to make that happen. And then it just turned out that everything we know about dealing with regulators. I said to the UCC, whenever I'm dealing with the regulators, I take my best estimate and add 2 years, and that's been my experience of dealing with the SEC and other regulators. So this thing was always coming. So the biggest mistake was, I think, making creditors believe that the 50 million orderly wind down existed when it never existed, because it was never fully fleshed through or thought out. And every single plan never had anything as low as 50 million. And so I think that was a huge mistake. And so then when you actually end up doing the maths, you realize that actually orderly wind down was always going to have, so when Global X guys first shared about their plan, they were talking about taking a company public and stuff like that. But then we started paying 300k a month, and it never became an actual full-fledged plan. And so that's where I think they entered into settlement, because what they actually wanted to do was manage the illiquid assets. So my experience of Brick is they're actually pretty good at hardballing and doing the aggressive part, which is actually really good, because the illiquid assets involve hardballing negotiations, trying to settle things. So we got dodgy loans and stuff where it requires, doing exactly what happened to us, which is we got hardballed. It was a little bit gross. And that's the type of skill set we need. And that's not a Chris Ferraro skill set. But I think they're going to charge quite big for it. And we'll find out today. The deadline's 4 p.m. So we'll see what the actual plan is and the settlement with Brick. But we've just reached that stage where any incremental improvement, I believe, is going to cost us significantly more than what we would gain from arguing over the improvement. And so that's kind of where we are. So like when I realized the price of Bitcoin's rising and this is the actual bull market, the rug pull thing becomes a reality. People think I'm a bit paranoid on that one. I think it's 100% a reality. If we sustainably go above 60 to 70, 60,000, and we stay there for 3 months while negotiating another deal and resoliciting, the best plan will be, give the Bitcoin upside to whoever's next in line. And so I brought it up in court yesterday, and the UCC said, yeah, we don't think that's a thing. Celsius say, we don't think that's a thing. And I think a lot of people may not think it's a thing, but I think it's a genuine risk if we were there. And so the maths all point towards whatever we do from here. It may feel like we're resolving something that's unjust, or we're angry with who's charging fees and stuff like that. But when you actually do the maths, the only difference between the 50 million orderly wind down plan after all the fees versus putting 225 million into the company worked out it saves us $72 million. And then that $72 million, if it goes through resolicitation and it takes 3 months, would cost us 60 million to be in bankruptcy for another 3 months on top of resolving it. And so now you're down to about a $12 million improvement. Then it turns out that they were going to ask for more money and do something that looks almost identical to US Bitcoin Group anyway. And so, it turns out that we'd be negotiating against our interest. A bunch more money would go to lawyers, and we'd expose ourselves to the rug pull where the US government might say, hey, we're next in line. Pay off those creditors. And the IRS is doing that in the FTX case right now. They're trying to get ahead of creditors and get the $25 billion ahead of creditors. Other agencies in the US, there's state there's various other regulators, so they might all do the same. And so to me, it hit game over point as soon as Bitcoin said, right, ETF is going to be likely approved in January. We're likely in a Bitcoin bull market. We could be made 100% whole and still lose 75% of our Bitcoin just because of the dollarization. Anything we do from here is value destructive. So, then you had all these objectors. Now, the US trustee, I've been trying to figure out what is the US trustee's role in this. Why would they object? Well, they'd object because their job, as far as I see it, is to adhere the bankruptcy code so that when you're in a future bankruptcy case, this case law doesn't come through that then someone else then uses in order to hijack a bit of the bankruptcy code. So the US trustee and the judge are just really saying, okay, Celsius and UCC agree this is the best way out and the fastest way out. Loans ad hoc have some kind of objection. I'm not quite sure what that is, but they may have a different strategy. So we'll find out in the next few hours. The US trustee just needs to uphold the code. So then it became apparent, actually, the only thing that's stopping us from being approved on the 21st is whether the US trustee and the judge agree that this is within the law. And as long as it is within the law, where they read the disclosure statement, they read the bankruptcy code, and they analyze, is this, and then it answers those three questions that the UCC put in their letter. And as long as it answers those three questions and someone else doesn't object, so then you got, well, who's the final objector? Well, there's Galaxy, which put in a predatory bid way back about this time a year ago, where they wanted like 85% discount on our crypto assets. They're coming back and they're doing a deal, and it may be better. But if it derails the process from here, I just don't see how it can be significantly better. And then you start to ask yourself, well, okay, so if we're being asked to invest $225 million in a forced investment into a mining co, yeah, we all know that the valuation isn't real. It's based upon a hash rate, some of the stuff that Michael and other creditors have pointed out, and Sharon has pointed out, and YOLO pointed out. But if we get out, and if the only thing we have is a NASDAQ listed company, or even it takes ages and we end up on the ATS with Mike Cagney, so that can be part of a settlement, or we end up on Abu Dhabi Exchange, which just did the largest mining IPO, and it takes a year to get there. If they can figure out a way of just getting our crypto distribution in January, getting a planned effective date, and taking as long as they want to give us our equity, as long as we get out in January, then we can have the optimum price for seeding it with 225 million, where we've already made more than 225 million through the Bitcoin price appreciation. And so everything just became really just do the numbers, and you realize if there is a way, and this is where we have to rely on the UCC, the US trustee, the judge, and Kirkland and Ellis to find a legal way of doing it. And as long as they can, creditors have no input whatsoever at this stage. So to me, it was game over. There's nothing to fight for other than us all whinging on Twitter, and the lawyers do their thing. But if they can do it, then it will really work in our interest, just based upon the numbers, and just get us out rather than messing around. And then even if you had just a shitty company that had to spend a load of money on Cedarvale, and it turned out that our equipment is all outdated and the hash rate wasn't a realistic valuation, someone like Galaxy why are they interested in us? Well, they're not interested in us because they want to help us. They're interested in us because they want to be a public company. And so if the board could decide, well, maybe the best strategy is just to use the fact that we are a public company to reverse merge another private listed mining company. And rather than figuring out how to do all that and have the value in Chapter 11, do it with the existing structure. And so the more and more you look through it, I think, we all are just creating fake narratives based upon imperfect information without having done the maths that makes us think that there's this illusion of something better, and there isn't anything better as far as I can see it right now. And so everything, I think personally, is get this approved on the 21st if we can. Anyone that objects is, I don't think, working in creditors' interests at this stage. And then, we've got Christmas. So Christmas is the week after. So they're doing the hearing on Thursday. I think the judge isn't just going to suddenly say, yeah, this is done. But as much work as they can do by everything. We've got 4 p.m. today to get everything out. As long as everything is out, then the judge can spend a week doing whatever they need to do and arguing. And the next week is crucial. We won't know shit about what's happening. But then go into the 21st as ready as possible with them knowing that this is in our interest. And then hopefully the judge can file something on Friday the 22nd, which may be deleted. And then everyone else can just fight for all the ADR process for clawbacks and all that type of stuff. We get our crypto in January, lock in the price on the same week that ETF is launched. And the 225 million will be as painless as it possibly could be, just because we got bailed out by Bitcoin pricing. And that's what I'm hoping can happen. Now, I might be completely deluded, but if we go to revote, hopefully there's a lighter form of revote. But my guess is that that's a 6 months process that costs us 120 million, adds zero value to the equation, and just creates everyone that was trying to re-argue again. And then we just have to do everything all over again as complete value destruction from my belief. But we don't really get any say over that. That's just purely a legal argument. Can Judge Glenn and the US trustee agree that this is legal and it doesn't create case law that others are going to use to beastify the bankruptcy code in the future? So that's all I think we're at right now. I hope that just explains a few things and helps people. Maybe you disagree with certain things, but that's where I think we're at right now.
Yeah, I think Mike Cagney's bid, if I understand it, he's trying to position it based on his tweets as an orderly wind down alternative. So he's trying to convince the decision makers that, hey, this bid is a better orderly wind down than the one on the table. So in theory, that wouldn't require resolicitation if it's also within the parameters of an orderly wind down. We may have to do a vote anyway for the toggle, so it wouldn't necessarily be a full resolicitation, but the toggle as stands is null and void since the equity's changed. So if you toggled for equity and now instead of this new co, you're getting mining only shares, that was deemed not fair, justifiably, because a lot of people that toggled for equity would be quite unhappy if they toggled for something that's materially different. So it's effectively like nobody toggled, and they still haven't filed anything that I've seen in the docket, but they've been talking previously about doing another vote to allow people to toggle. But they probably would want to first gauge whether resolicitation is necessary. So the next hearing is going to be quite high stakes.
Agreed. Yeah. The toggle's another one of those things. I guess the issue with the toggle is just people saying, yeah, I was all in on equity, but now I'm not. And yeah, I don't know how they're going to deal with that one. But I think they did say in the press release that they'll resolicit. I can't see that happening next week. So that's another thing that needs to be resolved.
Yeah. And it's also worth pointing out that it would have been possible to have solicited for toggles for both orderly wind down and NewCo in the one initial vote. So if they'd been properly planning this, it would have been easy enough to say, okay, would you like to toggle for NewCo? And hey, under this orderly wind down scenario, which in case you didn't know, is going to be requiring the $225 million, feels like this kind of made it up after the fact, which doesn't, I mean, in terms of us getting confidence with the decision makers, this is not really doing the job. It just feels like they were putting everything into NewCo going through, and then it's like, oh no, what's this other plan B? And oh no, we've totally not been keeping bricks in the loop, and now they hate us. It's just like this nightmare where it's like the whole concept of the backup bid basically backfired. It was supposed to be in theory there to like jump in instantly, whereas in retrospect, they just jumped in to basically threaten to sue us, which is not what you pay $300K a month for. So that did not work out well. But yeah, it was pretty much like a 2-track process, but we were all in on track 1. And I think if it had been planned properly, they would have been upfront saying, like, this is how much funding's actually necessary for the orderly wind down, and here's the toggle for it, versus now it feels like they've materially changed. Even though it fits within the 4 corners, quote unquote, it does feel very different from, what the expectations were initially.
Yeah, you're 100% right there. So when we were doing the whole, when we were trying to solicit creditors to pull behind, putting some clout behind the earn ad hoc, because Kirkland and Ellis were kind of, sorry, I keep getting calls. Kirkland and Ellis were saying, yeah, we're not listening to the earn ad hoc. They don't have enough money behind it. So we pulled together money. The 3 things I was trying to get done was the loan ad hoc and earn ad hoc have control over the toggle. We get more control over who we select for the board and its creditors. And the other one was a fair and competitive process before we go to solicitation for the orderly wind down plan. And then UCC got on a call and said, and then this led to the plan support agreement, because they were saying, look, the orderly wind down plan is not mature at all. And so that's when I realized, okay, that they've abandoned that. Why did they do that? Well, it's because they drank the Fahrenheit Kool-Aid, and I still think the stalking horse bid got us down from an 8% recovery to about a 35% crypto recovery, because we went from Nova Wolf wanting $1 billion to down to 450 million. But I was completely surprised when they chose Fahrenheit over Nova Wolf, because I thought the whole thing was just getting the fees down and going through that process. But for some reason, that was chosen. And then they came out and said, the reason it was chosen was because they said, we can get you public by the end of this year. And then when they realized they couldn't do that, they'd overpromised and underdelivered. We end up in the situation right now. And then, Brick end up with feeling left out because they didn't have the full plan. But this negotiation settled that, because what they really wanted was to do their aggressive thing on managing our illiquid assets. And I think they'll do a better job than Chris Ferraro, but I don't know what the fees are going to be. We'll find out what the fees are going to be. But essentially, we got Chris Ferraro doing the unwind, which is the plan administrator. Then you got litigation trust, which will be a combination of Brick with the litigation oversight committee. And then you've got the illiquid assets, which will be Brick. Then the mining co, and we get a bit more crypto. We pay less fees to Brick. We'll find out that, because those fees for managing mining were harsh. And hopefully we can drive some value over having a Nasdaq listed company if that falls through. As long as we can find a way of exiting without having to wait for that. That's where the lawyers come in. And then if we get an SEC listed company, even if the company's a shambles, I think any creative board could turn that into an opportunity for one of these private miners that wants to go on Nasdaq. Then if that falls through, you could do a deal with Mike and go on the ATS. Mike wants the ATS deal because that's his business, and so he put together a deal to try and get that. Mike is part of the Galaxy deal, so that's the Galaxy objection that we haven't seen yet, unless I've missed it on the docket. So we'll see what clout is put behind that. And then if you can't get any of those, you could look at another stock exchange, like they had in the original plan, the Abu Dhabi Stock Exchange, and that just created the most valuable mining IPO out there. So they're going to look to try and recreate that success, and there'll probably be a lot of money in the Middle East that want to, if that's a successful investment, that would want to do something like that. So just look at it as a vehicle as opposed to, is this going to produce a profitable business? I don't think that's the right way of thinking about it at this stage, because we all know that, as we always knew from day one, Bitcoin mining is a low margin business, and people see this massive value, but it's a highly, highly competitive area. And so hopefully it can pivot from there. And even if it doesn't, just unlock the value by doing a reverse merger so that someone else can go public. That's what I would suggest. I don't know if it's legally possible though to make that happen, but that's what the lawyers should be able to achieve.
Where's a SPAC when you need one?
Yeah, well, we're on the right side of the SPAC there, because we got we would be the company that somebody could reverse merge into, and so you're not on the wrong side of the SPAC, you're on the right side of the SPAC, where you got
Yeah, exactly, to piggyback onto their already existing listing.
if we get it, but if we get the ATS, it doesn't matter. Whatever we get, as long as we can exit. If we're sat here waiting for that, then that's the sin we don't want to.
I absolutely agree with you, Mr. Dixon. It doesn't matter. And the most important thing is getting out, because it's dragged on too long as it is. And these objections are just going to be settled anyway. So they should go ahead and drain whatever assets they need to from the estate to go ahead and get everything settled up, and everyone can move forward and put this ugliness behind us.
Also be aware of conflicts of interest as well. There's certain groups that want this to go on for as long as possible, like, depending on where they sit. If someone's trying to get their collateral and go for that, or someone's doing clawbacks. So you can't, there's competing agendas as well. So just be careful what everyone's pushing for. In understanding it may not be in some people's best interest to get out as soon as possible. But it doesn't matter anyway, because literally nothing we do as creditors, no amount of noise we make on Twitter will change anything right now. We're completely irrelevant into this process at this stage. We're 100% reliant on what the lawyers agree in the bankruptcy code. We have nothing that will change that right now.
Unless you find Judge Glenn's alt account.
Oh yeah? How would that work, Cam?
Once you find it, you can start DMing him and get special privileges.
Yeah, and then Otis can appeal on that one. Has anything hit the docket yet? I think we just had one today, isn't it? That was just someone trying to fleece some more fees. Was it a fee increase? Haven't seen anything else yet. We got till 4 p.m. and Judge Glenn was very insistent. Get your objections in before 4 p.m.
Well, yeah, speaking of fee increases, it is that time of year where I think at the end of the year, at least based on last year, now that we've been in this bankruptcy process so long, all the professional fees, they either get promoted or they get their rates increased. So we've already seen one rate increase for all the professionals, and they're going to get their second increase of this case. So really nice. They can afford to buy their families like extra gifts this Christmas. Real feel-good story. It turns out that there's 67 professionals that have earned, or not earned, but billed the estate in excess of $1 million so far. So not everybody's suffering through this bankruptcy.
Yeah, one thing I won't let happen once we're out of this and we're done is I'm not going to let anyone say that they did an amazing job and we got 99% whole, just because the price of Bitcoin went up and they stole 75% of our Bitcoin. I'm not going to allow that story. I'll do everything that I can, and I think everyone should do what they can to make sure that's not the story. So that that's just not the story. That's not what happened. But people will use this US dollar thing to piggyback on the back of Bitcoin, saying they did a great job.
Oh yeah, I mean it's going to happen. People are going to claim that's the case. Like the numbers are going to look a lot better. And it does minimize the impact that this has had on so many people's lives, which is unfortunate. But the press runs with those numbers, and it's already made repeated mistakes. Like the press is so quick to advertise that Celsius offered returns up to 18% as the top line. And people that aren't involved either with Celsius or cryptocurrency see that and they go, oh, these dumbasses, what an obvious scam. Because 18%, yeah, that would be a number that typically would be consistent with a scam. Like just seeing that number would give you pause. But then that was the return offered for synthetics, which has like a built-in inflationary rate. So, I mean, even like the returns on stable coins being around like 8-9% is certainly high, but it's within the realm of reason. Like my prior experience was I did a lot of peer-to-peer lending, and my returns were about 8% more recently. They've since cut that off for individual investors and made it for institutional only. So I guess the returns were so attractive. They were obviously charging a lot more than Celsius was charging for their retail-facing loans, but it was like a consistent, believable number. But the press runs with a high number like that. It just destroys the empathy that people have for the victims of this case. And the press really just doesn't care. It's just about doing their job. At least because like a lot of the journalists that I see, even if they've done a good job, they don't really quite get the full emotional weight that this has had on everybody. And they're going to run with the top line numbers. Like I think there were people, even the account, I think it was Altcoin Daily, had tweeted something that Celsius holders were getting. I think they tweeted like the 72.5%. They basically were confused about the custody settlement and saying like withdrawals are now ready and everybody's getting their money back. And people see this stuff and they get a much different picture from what's actually the case. So yeah, like 100% in this case is going to be very misleading.
No,
I saw one headline.
Altcoin
Oh,
Daily
sorry.
tweeted that Celsius is now allowing people to withdraw their funds. Just a blanket statement, and people are like, "Really?"
There was one where they said when Coinbase was announced as the distribution agent, they were like, "Yeah, Coinbase is buying us out and making us." I can't remember what the headline was. It was something ludicrous like that. Hey, does anyone disagree that getting out on the 21st is not the best idea and we should be pushing for something else? Does anyone want to push back against any of our assumptions? Is anyone like really want to argue and carry on and fight for something better because they feel like that we can do better?
I'll say that I think everyone wants out as soon as possible, but I do disagree that, Bitcoin going up is bad for everyone. So that's where I would disagree that the whole rug pull thing, it's bad if you're looking at this as an investment and you want to go long Bitcoin and all the things, but it's not bad, especially if you're 100% stables or if you just want 100% of your claim back and getting out.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
I
if
can
everyone wants
echo that.
100%.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Simon.
So let's say Bitcoin goes up to 100K and stays there. We'll get less Bitcoin than if Bitcoin stayed at 50K.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
he knows
understand.
that. It's similar, like as far as, for example, myself, I am like 85% stables, probably even 90% stables. And at the end of the day, if Bitcoin runs, I had 1 Bitcoin on there. So now I'll get back 0.1 Bitcoin, but I'll also get back, a lot of my dollars that I was saving, right? So, but it's a different it's a different thought as you, Simon. I know you think in Bitcoin.
Yeah, but no, if you are stable, so even then you could like stables are in a really nice place. You could get if you get as long as you can get it below the rug pull number, then you're going to have like 100, and the assets perform, and there's more money to come out in the future. Then you'll have like an actual decent yield, and you would have been in a forced investment in Bitcoin, and that would have been that's better for you. But if we end up just giving it to the US government, then yeah, I guess it's not a time for greed. So anyone that's in stable should be very happy.
Harry King.
Hey, well, Simon, the amount of money that's been already spent, and we've gone through to get no further ahead. Yes, some things were resolved, whether it's custody or loans or whatever. Fine. I'm of the belief that, getting out of bankruptcy definitely is part of it. There needs to be accountability held with a full-blown, full-fledged investigation into, and probably, hopefully, court proceedings into the C-suite of Celsius. I know that's some of it's been done. I don't know if all of them have been on that docket. But me, I've taken a 3-point hit with Celsius. Lost my altcoins that have now gone. One of them has gone 442% this year. X'd, right? 442% lost to Celsius. The other one, I think, is at 300% lost to Celsius. I incurred a tax hit because they ended up selling the altcoins that weren't the majority. So I got forced into this deal. And furthermore, the onus and the barbarity of what happened with that vote that is now something completely different. Yes, God damn it, I'm for I'm getting a resolicitation on the vote. Because guess what? What equity do I have now? What assets do I have now? I've taken between those two altcoins a 700% loss.
Thanks, Eric. So, guys,
Wait, hold on, Alex. I'm not even done. So there needs to be accountability for that, right? Yes, I understand that getting out of bankruptcy ASAP is the utmost for all creditors, including myself. But them making me whole, how do you account for that, Alex? Simon? It's something needs to be done here. And I do believe a revote happens, and they need to explain what happens with our staking, what happens with this litigation trust, what happens with these additional now Cedarville aspect, which we incurred on more debt that we're paying for to get this plan approved, or whatever the original Fahrenheit plan, but that's now out the door. Like,
let's try
come on,
and work through these, Harry. So go through each one at a time. And firstly, the reason what happened to your 400% and 700% is because we got double scammed. We got scammed by Majinski, and then we got scammed by Chapter 11. The scam is the dollarization of claims, and that is a bankruptcy code reform. Nothing will change if we revote that; it will still be the same. So the double scam we can't change. So then, what else can we change?
So now let's look at what we voted on, right? The plan. That plan had equity in a company that could go public, or that was supposed to go public on NASDAQ. I had my serious reservations even when that plan was introduced with Nova Wolf. A lot of you may have heard me talk about no on Nova Wolf. So on and so forth. Now with Fahrenheit, even more so. Where's our equity in which we could make up what we lost on the dollarization of our claims through bankruptcy? How do I get that made whole?
Yeah, I think so. Just to interject real quick, I think premise or the crux of the problem of your thinking is that thinking that you are going to be made whole. No one is going to be made whole in this, and I think thinking that is causing you a lot of consternation because like there's been talk at the beginning like, oh, we're going to switch to Kelvin and then we're going to do this whole new company and you're going to get all the like that's not going to happen. I'm just going to, sorry to break it to you, but like people are not going to be made whole. Like that's not going to happen.
No,
please let me hold on,
Alex,
Harry. Please let me jump in.
Alex, give me 1 second, sir. Alex, please just give me 1 second. But Tecmo, think about it this way, right? So let's say we got equity in a company that was going to be listed on a stock exchange, right? We're entering a bull market. The value of that stock, I've been looking at these mining firms lately. I'll give you the three that have popped up in my head. Obviously, TerraWolf is one, which if you guys want to look at the ticker symbol, it's called Wolf. In the last 30 days, it went from $1.16 from when I started looking at it to $1.73. That's almost a 50% bump right there. And that's the cheapest one. If you want to look at Clean Spark, when they released their earnings 2 to 3 weeks ago, right, was trading at $5.25. It's now over $10.57. That's 100% X increase. Okay. If you want to look at the there's a third one, but it's minor. But those two, just on the mining aspect of this equity company, right, on simple stocks traded on the Nasdaq, one did 100% in under 3 weeks. So what I mean by me being made whole is whatever equity I would have received from this mining company, right? In a bull market, when the miners are going flat out flush out, right? That amount could have made up the difference that I would have lost or that I did lose in the petition date / bankruptcy proceedings. That's what I mean by being
No.
whole.
I get it, and that's the whole premise of the whole NewCo, right? Was to get equity and eventually have it rise up and make people whole. I get that. I'm saying it's incredibly unlikely, and so I just want people's expectations to be tempered. And I will, I'll take a bet. Anybody want to bet me that people are going to be made whole? Because I'll take bets. How much anybody? I'm open to bets. Let's go right now.
Tecmo, and guys, I want to just echo what Mustard said. Please, we all want to get out because don't you get it? I mean, again, we are here at bankruptcy court for traditional finance. We have a date set in stone what our assets was worth. All what we're currently doing, okay, we evaluate it. Does mining make sense? How makes it sense best, and so on. And we all looked into this. Again, currently we all come to the same conclusion. We will actually lose even more. The whole game currently is just what is there for bankruptcy based to the traditional finance when actually everybody of you could get your petition date prices in dollar. Again, we all getting rocked because you lose, first of all, the upside for your Bitcoin or even your ETH, what you have, but you get your dollar value. And also this dollar value, do I get it all at once or do I get it over 5-6 years? Whatever, okay? Again, that's the rug pull here. And he's, of course, playing with that because, Harry, sorry to break it to you, okay? Will be made whole in Bitcoin terms. Never, ever is that going ever to happen. You do not lose 70%. Even when you lost 5%, I think it's very hard to get it back. Again, that was his playbook from the beginning. I guess I already have to break it to them that we will never get our cryptos back. But this crypto or this technology has so much upside potential that I can make him dollar whole. And that's what the TradeFi terms and services are, right? Please, let us all get out.
Well said, Alexander. Well said. Mr. Dixon, did you have something a point you wanted to make briefly, please?
Well, I could answer that. Maybe Tony wants to go first. I don't mind. I can answer you, Harry, if you want, or maybe Tony wants to jump in.
Tony, you want to take on the mining equity?
Yeah, I mean, I guess full disclosure, shit, I sound like Simon. I own equity in TeraWolf. I don't know what the other companies you mentioned, but CleanSpark, Bitfarms, Riot. There's a big difference between these companies and what we're trying to do. CleanSpark or TeraWolf, per coin mined, it costs them like $11,000, right? It's costing us currently, I think, 28, 29. After the halving, it's going to be close to 60, assuming that the hash rate stays flat, doesn't go up. Well, what is the likelihood that this actually performs well? The first, let's assume, right? It's a big assumption that this gets listed on the NASDAQ, but let's just say it does. The first quarterly report is going to be April or May, right? Hopefully. Do you think our number is going to be good? Probably not. So right off the bat, you can have poor earnings. There's going to be a sell-off on top of people selling, their shares to begin with. And then the second earnings report, our average cost to mine is going to be in the 60s. And assuming Bitcoin does what it always does after the halving, which is it kind of stays low or it goes under, we're going to be looking at what, negative 40, 50% margins?
Right, but Tony, but this is the point. Why did we take on Cedarville? Why?
Exactly.
What was that in aid of, mate?
Because
what was that in aid of?
Because in the next bankruptcy, right? Our next bankruptcy, Asher and Co. are going to acquire Cedarville for next to nothing.
Yeah, I think I was the one that brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you were spot on. I did,
Not wrong.
Nailed it.
I know, but this is what gets me angry, sir. This is what gets me infuriated, and it's to the point where I rarely go into Celsius rooms anymore because I've just had it. Like, I've reached a breaking point, and it seems that us going into chapter 11, while whoever was in charge of that at Celsius at that point in time thought it would be beneficial for customers, I had serious reservations about that because I don't think it does. I even said it way back when. It's a huge lift, to get the mindset of a financial firm that's filed for bankruptcy protection from its creditors and investors to regain that trust, to bring it back. I think if we'd all just gone in with how most of these bankruptcies are, which is liquidation, a lot of us would have received maybe more crypto, maybe more money, which we could have bought back these crypto assets when the market was at its lowest through the winter, the crypto winter that we all went through, for which is the longest one yet, I believe, and gain some of our tokens back or gain some of our money back. Because right now, if we were to get that dollarized version of our petition day, what would happen exactly? Oh, wait a minute. What would have cost me $15,000 to $18,000 a Bitcoin is now going to cost me $43,000 to $44,000 a Bitcoin. And by the time we get our money, it could be closer to $50K a Bitcoin. So it really hurt us. And someone has to be made accountable for that. And I'm sorry, but going into Chapter 11, I think hurt the creditors more than us going into a Chapter 7 liquidation at that point in time. I would love for people to object to that.
Yeah, so Harry, let me. One approach is objecting. So basically, triple scams. So scam one, Mashinsky. Scam two, dollarization. Scam three, Cedarville. Let's say that. Would you say that summarizes triple scam?
Yeah, but
But
Mashinsky, I think
Simon, hold on. Simon, you can't call dollarization a scam because it's the law.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm just
Okay, so
using
let's be
colorful
real.
language.
Yeah. I mean, the U.S. law doesn't even take into account cryptocurrency, right? There's no law of the books that can even deal with it. So it's a
Agreed.
consequence, not a scam, right?
Yeah. You're 100% right. I'm just using how we feel. We feel scams, let's say. So looking at the first one is, well, the filing for bankruptcy and dollarization. I'm not aware of anything or any objection that will change that. If someone else is, then they know something I don't know, but there's nothing that will change that. So then you're looking at, how do I get made whole? I think Tecmo said, stop thinking about being made whole. What needs to happen to be made whole is the stock would need to outperform the 75% loss plus the 400% plus the 700 or whatever percent you said, which would be like the highest performing investment in history, which historically only happens if you get on the right side of a meme coin or something like that, and you get out as fast as possible and into Bitcoin. So the expectations ain't there. So then you've got accountability. So who made the decision to? So let's take scam three. Sorry if I'm calling it wrong, Michael, but scam three is, there was a settlement with Core Scientific that led to us having to take on a larger liability in order to deploy miners, that Tony has pointed out and Michael has pointed out the maths don't work. And so how do you get accountability for that? Well, the only way I know is that, well, firstly, in order to exit Chapter 11, everyone that was involved in the process won't be able to be sued. So the only way I know of accountability is who made the decisions, which was obviously the UCC. That was their preferred route of how to settle Core Scientific and what they thought was the right plan. And so those are the two people that will be the board members of the company. So if the company fails, then we need to coordinate as shareholders, whereby a 25% majority shareholding can coordinate in either to change the board, or you let the company go bust, and the two people that made the decision are accountable to answer to all the shareholders. I don't know another way. Do you know another way of accountability?
I don't, but like us taking this again, none of us creditors were ever given the opportunity to see all the data. And to me, that poses a serious flaw. Two, the second thing, and I've been hoping that people can listen to this and understand what it's about. Going into bankruptcy, if a company files for bankruptcy, in my belief, there should be an audit, an independent audit done before they're granted that bankruptcy relief. Because what it seems to me that certain companies play this bankruptcy card and are literally, you know, not getting away with it, but like abusing the system to the point where it's almost like a rug pull. It's like we have no choice. We can't do anything. We are reliant and dependent on these people to make these decisions for us.
Yeah,
And
so Harry, this is bankruptcy code reform. We ain't going to reform the bankruptcy code in this process.
no, I know, I'm aware.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Harry, I think everyone agrees with your desire for accountability. I just think if we're being pragmatic, it's unlikely that there will be accountability for the bankruptcy process. There will hopefully be accountability on the criminal side of things, for, Alec et al. I think we just have to be pragmatic about the fact that we all got screwed multiple ways, and we need to mentally just get our money back as soon as possible and move on with our lives. Because as you said, let's say there is a bull market, just get what we
Okay,
can get and prepare for that.
so here's my final point. Well, there's two more points, but this is one of them. So we have funds coming into Celsius, like, equities first, all the stuff, whatever this other litigation's going on, our countersuit maybe to FTX and so on and so forth. That's going into this litigation trust, from my understanding. How are we getting
yeah,
paid out of that?
Brick's going to be
Where's that
managing
money
that.
going?
So we'll get a plan today. I don't know if it's 4 p.m. EST yet, but
Yeah,
we're
it's
meant to
almost.
get.
Yeah.
I don't know if the docket's hit yet, but we're meant to receive a plan that explains the settlement between Brick and Celsius,
Okay.
and they
Tomorrow.
outline Brick's meant to be managing all those and making sure we make money out of all those.
Right. But you do understand that we were supposed to be getting this $5 million a month from equities first,
Yeah,
right?
they've defaulted and they're bankrupt, and they're if we collect on our loan, they'll go bankrupt. They're a piece of shit company.
Okay. So, all right.
All right.
And then,
Sorry
my
to cut you
final
off, but
point is, right. My
okay.
final point before this thing really wrecks my nerves. If Jesus, how can I phrase this? Okay. So let's leave the litigation trust aside. That's going to be managed by the court system, right, through bricks, and that's going to incur costs in itself, right? That's going to have its own legal costs
Yep.
because it's going through. Yeah, okay. At the end of the day, when all is said and done, we are going to be receiving crypto through PayPal, XYZ, whatever percentage that is, right? We're hopefully going to be we will know what we'll receive from this litigation trust, right? This mining company that they intend to bring to a market, what do we get with that? Because all these 3 points lead back to that solicitation, the vote. And this is why I'm adamant about having a new vote. Because what we voted on before is different from what we're getting now. But we have a lack of information that will give the creditors a better understanding as to A, what we're voting for, and B, what we're getting.
Yeah, so the US trustee and the judge will look at everything they solicited, which is the disclosure statement, plus 10 planned supplements, plus the press release, plus whatever we get today, and they'll make a legal determination around whether what they told us is materially different or harms us more. And no one can control that process. If the judge and the US trustee say that it's not, then we're revoting. And if we revote, I think it will cost us more than we will make, personally. So personally, I'm praying that doesn't happen. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
Well, also, Harry, when it comes to the voting,
Can I just add?
it's well, just quickly, when it comes to voting, it's not like we get a choice between, let's say, a wind down a new co or this plan or that plan. It's basically either go forward with what's being proposed to us or stay and waste away and have the process extend. And then, Joe, if you want to jump in.
Well, here's an update.
Yeah, I was
Do you want to tell me about the update that the date of the December 21st is coming to January 11th? Does anyone want to mention that now? Or no?
No, it's not. There's another court
Harry,
hearing for a different subject on the 11th, but it may happen like that.
Yeah, I mean, the plan they're trying to push
Harry,
is a
Tecmo was saying before. Tecmo was saying before that you have to get away from the mindset of being made whole. I just want to add, just like listening to you for the last half hour, everything you're saying is right. You're very logical and you're principled. So to you, it's like we're in court. We were scammed. We are looking for fairness. We are looking for justice. We are looking for equity. We are looking for things to be made right, and that's just not the process that we're going through. If you a more analogous process, way to look at it is we're in a burning building, and somebody set this building on fire, and we can complain about everything that we're losing in the building and try to run back in and salvage whatever we can because it's not fair that it's all getting burned to the ground. But is that really what you want to do when your house is on fire? Run back in and try to investigate while the fire is active and try to get as much as you can out of there, or do you want to be practical and get out? If
Joe,
we
I'm
are
all about getting
seeking
out.
justice, we're in the wrong.
No,
Right.
no, I'm all about getting out.
Yeah.
But
If we're looking for to investigate and justice, we're just basically burning more of our house down than we need to in this process.
well, Joe,
I know that sounds very negative. I can tell you,
no,
I think we've also worked ourselves into a frenzy the last few months since this SEC thing happened, because we were like finally there and we felt like, okay, we're about to get out. And then why didn't we know that, we could always look in hindsight. Why do we buy Cedarville? Why do we do this? Why do we do that?
no. Okay,
Chapter
Joe,
11 is like an impossible set of circumstances that you're trying to get the best that you can out of, but you're never going to get fairness. You're never
no,
going to get equity. You're never going to get
no. Okay, hold
perfection.
on. Right. No, I understand that, but here's my point. If if the C-suite is found liable for fraud, right? Does that or does not change the premise of the underlying factors?
No,
Well, Harry, I'm
no, it
not sure
doesn't
that
change
that
what's going to happen to us. The criminal proceeding
exactly.
will happen over here, and what happens to us happens over here. It's entirely separate. Panda, you've had your hand up for a while. Go ahead.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I think we're kind of going in circles. Like, it's, in my mind, this wasn't like unforeseen. My question is, like, in a semi sarcastic way, couldn't we just sit down, White and Case, Kirkland and Ellis, and the debtors, all these KEIP C-suite executives who get like a lot of millions of dollars, and ask them, like, okay, dudes, how much money do you want today to leave us the fuck alone? Like, how much do we pay us? How much do we give you today and leave us the fuck alone? Because these guys had a carrot on a stick since the beginning, starting with the UCC, starting with Ferraro, who was reading off a, like, not he wasn't even fluent like me, and English is not my first language, right? And they just had a carrot on a stick, and right now they took away the carrot and they just promise us that there might be the carrot somewhere if we go along. And I'm sorry to everyone who thinks that, especially the big whales who got trapped in this shit, that they will get equity and they can dump on someone else who get FOMO because someone promised that they can generate money by turning miners on and off again. Like, this won't happen, especially when we read every day that all these miners buy undisclosed number of ultimate generational miners for at least $250 million. Like, they are investing for this halving. Like, we don't stand a chance. So we will have a piece of property which we won't even be able to utilize, and by the time we might start, it will be next year of at least June, July, at least, if we go on like this.
CMO, bro, I think you're absolutely correct that this line, while it appeals to the emotional experience that I've had over the last year and a half, and Harry, I completely agree with Joe. You're logical and you're a principled man, and we're not necessarily dealing with those same kind of people. We have to put our hope in the criminal court system, as well as the bankruptcy court system, because we have no choice. We could move the conversation forward. I'd like to hear from aspiring, please.
Oh, my heart really goes out to you guys. Listening to this for so long, it's I don't know what to say, and why I actually spend time doing this. So I want to try to make this constructive. So I spent a little time researching, and there was a case this year that went to the 11th Circuit. The reorg plan was changed. I haven't researched it enough to know all the details, and I'm just getting my card. And in this particular case, there was an extinguishment of existing equity and new issuance of new equity. The CEO or something did something and changed it and ended up altering the plan in some way. But the bankruptcy court approved it without requiring new disclosure statement and a resolicit. The 11th Circuit reversed the decision. And to quote the 11th Circuit, the court basically highlighted the importance of providing adequate information about the plan's compliance with 1125. So those two words, adequate information, is what you guys should be thinking about right now, because I don't think, from listening to people talking about the situation, I don't think people are truly understanding the odds right now. I mean, if Glenn does not want to deal with the 11th Circuit shooting down decisions anymore. So there's a very tall bar here. The hurdle is high. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Now, does somebody want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I'm just trying to condense it down to what can we do, what can't we do. And so you either believe that you want this plan approved or you don't want it approved. And either way, you're not going to make any difference, because the decision maker is the US trustee and the judge. And they're going to make that decision no matter what we say, no matter what we do, no matter what we research, no matter what we find. And there's going to be, if you want to put in an objection, I'm not sure what the time is. You've got till 4 p.m. EST today to put in
25
an
minutes.
objection. You've got 25 minutes to put your objection in. Otherwise, forever hold your peace. The objections that we may see in the next 25 minutes, one of them is going to come from Galaxy because they think they've got a better plan. Another one may come from the loan ad hoc because they've got something else they want to do, and I don't know what that is. Another one may come from the US trustee who believes, nothing to do with what's good for creditors, that if this creates case law that screws up the bankruptcy code, then she wants it to revote. And I don't think and BRIC have named their price. The CMO was asking, can everyone just sit down and name their price? BRIC's named their price. In the next 25 minutes, we'll find out what that price is. And that's everything. US Bitcoin has named their price. Everyone has named their price. Chris
That's really the
Farrar has
bottom
named
line.
his
That's really the
price.
bottom line, isn't it? We're probably going to get out of this with settlements
Yeah,
if
listen.
it can pass legal muster.
I don't know, Simon, if that was a response to what I said. I didn't catch. I think that was a separate statement. You're correct in understanding the stakeholders of the system right now as things stand, but there is no bigger dog than the 11th Circuit. So, yes, that's what Glenn is only thinking about right now. Okay, I think that's very clear. So, regardless, listen, ad hocs, to stress Mustard's earlier point, ad hocs, this is long well known. Ad hocs go for settlements. The BRICS situation here, whoever the stakeholders are of BRICS, free money. I mean, come on. I would have gone a little bit deeper into this. Discovery right now in an adversarial action is, as everybody knows who's heard me before, is really what I want to see, because I do want to see a change. but that's a separate issue. I think right now, my heart goes out to everybody. My hunch is that this is not being resolved in the near term. So do what you can to plan accordingly. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
I think it
The
comes.
the trustee just filed her objection if anyone wants to check it out. But at the end of the day, like the plan we voted on is not this plan. If the judge approves this, he rubber stamps it, it can get appealed and it can get overturned. Judge doesn't care about anybody on the stage or anyone listening or anyone that's a creditor. I'm sure he cares on a personal level, but he's not going to look like an idiot by getting his ruling overturned just so that we can maybe get something back earlier. Just not going to happen.
Yeah, so the most important document, Tony said, that's just been filed. Judge Glenn is going to either agree with that or disagree with that, and that's going to determine everything from here. Nothing else that we do is going to change that.
He did say a number of times that he wants to hear from creditors. I don't think he meant like individual creditors on Twitter, but the Earn ad hoc just filed, and I just posted it in the Nest, a statement in support of exiting this burning building. And I think if he does hear that from the ad hocs, there's enough leeway to use the numbers, even though there's a lot of things that you can question in those numbers, to say that it does fit within the four corners of the plan that was filed. So I think it really does come down to, now that work
Yeah.
is hopefully
We
settled, it does come
we
down
get
to.
it. We get it. You signed the plan support agreement. We got it.
There was a funding issue here in 2023 that the 11th Circuit said no because the funding changed like a couple $1,000,000.
Yeah, this
Think
is
about your
200
situation.
million.
Think about your situation.
Yeah, but is that what you want? That's the question. Do you
Is that
want,
what I want?
not
No,
you,
that's not
anyone
what I
want,
want.
is,
But I'm not pumping hopium out there, dude. I'm a realist. I'm a banker. Like, no.
Right. I mean, you guys are talking about wants. You got to be realistic.
No creditors getting their wants here, not even the ad
exactly.
hocs.
Right, exactly. We keep talking about what we all want, but like this is a materially different plan. I want to get out yesterday, but I don't. We're gonna. The way I see it, this is most likely gonna have to go to a revote and a resolicitation, which
Okay.
means April, maybe, hopefully.
Well, I don't know
But
about
Tony,
anybody else, but Tony, you're not pumping hopium.
So, but
Yeah, well, if we get to April, I don't know if you agree, Tony, but I do think the rug pull's real. I think we'll sustain above 60,000, like leading up to April. Everyone's going to mess around. Everyone's going to resolicit, and someone's just going to say, just sell the crypto, make everyone 100% whole, and give the rest to the government.
I mean, that's
Maybe
pretty
the
much what
maybe,
I'm expecting.
maybe the silver lining is if we did have to go through the process of a revote, there's a possibility of getting some of the attorneys cheek slapped or something like that, which would help satisfy Harry and me a little bit, I have to admit.
I'm sure they would like that, but
I,
It's the fourth scam.
I,
If it's the fourth scam is the US government agencies take all our Bitcoin upsides. That's what we're asking for. But it doesn't matter what we ask for, as Tony said. It's just literally US trustee has submitted. Does Judge Glenn agree? UCC and Celsius have said what they think, and on the 21st they'll all decide whether it's going to create case law that screws up the bankruptcy code, or whether it's all in check. And if we don't get that, then I think what Tony said is most likely will be out in April. Bitcoin, if it sustains its price above 60K, I think the arguments will just lead us to sell all the assets, give the rest to the US government, and they'll keep all the Bitcoin upside and keep everything else.
You're not wrong.
don't you think? Don't you think though, if they get the ad hocs to hop on board, just like the Earn ad hoc just did, loan ad hoc as well. I know David Adler's thinking about the objection, but I don't know if it was 100% certain. But isn't that going to give them a stronger case going into December 21st to kind of persuade the judge?
it's 100% certain.
Yeah,
The
that's what I
loans
was thinking.
objection, the loans objection. I mean, I don't know about the other stuff.
Okay.
I think he's working on it now.
Tony, can you paint us paint a scenario where we go through a revote and the resolicitation, the whole process again, and end off with something better than we have now?
We are not. That's why they should have just stuck with the brick deal so we can get out. There's nothing better.
Yeah, we should have done. You can always go back and criticize what we should have done along the way. The question
What
is,
we
right now,
should do.
given what we have,
But Brick,
do
but
you
also
see a
Brick
scenario where
materially.
objecting leads to a better outcome?
But Brick forgot to disclose that they need a $75 million loan and they're going to ask for more.
Okay, sell Cedarville. They say it's worth 50. Problem
And we
solved.
only paid 314. What?
No, even if you sell Cedarville, there is no plan. I've seen them all. There is no plan that asks for 50 million. That was put on there and it's wrong. No one asked for 50 mil.
So when they solicited the votes, when they got us to vote yes because the toggle was part of the plan, maybe these $2,000 an hour geniuses should have planned for that. Maybe they should have asked some questions. Maybe they should have done their fucking jobs instead of complaining that everyone wants the brick deal, everyone wants the orderly wind down, and the only way to get it is if they vote yes for the regular plan.
100%. That was the exact mistake, the most ridiculous thing that misled everyone into thinking that Brick's going to do it for 50 mil when they're not.
Because every single time these guys spoke, they said it with a level of certainty that they were going to get this waiver, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, but we told you that it wasn't a guarantee. No, you didn't, motherfucker. You said we're just waiting in court multiple times. Chris Koenig, and then he, looking, like he was distraught that day in court when the judge was asking him, and he's like, oh yeah, but I told you. No, you didn't. You said we're waiting for it. And if it was such a highly unlikely scenario to happen, as they're now claiming they told us it was, why the fuck did you do it? Fuck, are you making $2,000 an hour to make these decisions, to be an expert, if you don't know shit? And if you don't know anything about the SEC, maybe you should step down and get one of the other 50,000 attorneys that work at Kirkland who has history with the SEC, who knows who he can call to get a firm answer. Maybe you should talk to one of those guys. Maybe they should handle the case instead of you if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I just want to point out, Tony and Aspiring are so right on this point. And the reason why the solicitation and revote needs to be done, and that's why the U.S. trustee is putting her objection forward, is so no one can object and go to the 11th Circuit. Because it takes one objection to go to the 11th Circuit. Only one person needs to put it in. And there's enough people out there that will do it. So
hey,
what she's doing is correct.
What's 11th Circuit? Explain that to everyone.
It's a higher court to overrule a judge's verdict.
Okay, so that's what Spire was saying, that
yes,
someone's going to take it to the higher court, basically.
So
they will.
I'm glad Aspiring is on here, right? Because I don't know if Glenn even has jurisdiction anymore, because Otis and Johan and I forgot who else. I think Yolo.
Richard.
Yolo.
Yeah, they appealed this, so he can't change the confirmed plan, because it's no longer in his court. It's appealed to a higher court. No.
Not yet. It's not yet accepted.
Yeah,
but what
you
if
actually
it gets accepted?
You have to actually make the appeal. But listen, I'm trying to be careful here, because I'm pretty, my background is the right background to be talking about this kind of stuff, and nobody else's. So I have to be careful, and I don't know enough about the situation. I'm not a legal expert by any stretch. I'm just a nerd, and I really do want change in the system. But yeah. So no, I don't have an answer for you. Sorry, Tony.
All right. Well,
this
at
is why
least we
when
know what the issue is. One complaint might take you to that process, and then
Sharon,
we're
did
in
I
the
see
rug
your hand
pull.
up?
Hi. Really, I was just going to affirm to Tony that Judge Glenn currently does have decision-making and I guess your word jurisdiction, but he does have prerogative in the current case in front of him. Absolutely. The wind up to the appeals, they first have to be accepted within that court. But Glenn currently definitively has jurisdiction in the bankruptcy case in front of him.
Hey, Simon, say something real quick.
Say something.
Mustard, did you hear that?
I did hear that.
You did? Okay. All right. Because you cut him off before, and I assumed it was a Twitter glitch.
It might have been. Everybody's been cutting in and out for me. It could be.
Yeah, I was about to say, my shit's been cutting out right now too.
No, he's just fed up of hearing from me. That's all it is.
Well, this is why when the plan was rejected by the SEC, I said we needed to go to a resolicitation and revote right away. We wasted a month waiting for the 21st when we know most likely that's going to happen.
Or, we could
Yeah.
have just sold everything and
I'm
moved
saying
on
that
with
now
our lives.
too. I don't even think a mining facility is worth it. I say liquidate the mining rigs and try to recover as much as possible. Then you don't have the board members you have to pay for, the $100 million for Cedarville, all that.
Do you have any sense of
Hey,
what?
demons.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Sharon.
Do you have any sense of what the retail market rate would be? It's kind of a trick question.
What for our equipment?
Yep.
Oh, horrible, horrific. It could be less than what they did the last time they did the market campaign.
So they have door stops currently on Amazon for about $10, $15 a week.
Hey guys,
Bench tested $50 for an S19. Bench tested $50.
the US trustee just dropped their objection on the docket.
Okay, I think we've all reached consensus on what's happening from here anyway, isn't it? The judge, it's all Judge Glenn. There's like no US trustee. We'll go have a read of that, and then Judge Glenn, according to Sharon, has jurisdiction to. But if it creates case law that screws up the bankruptcy code, and someone goes through this Circuit 11 process, we're just a bunch of people that have zero influence over any of that stuff.
Hey, DEMA's Chapter 7 liquidation motion is still out there. I don't think that's been completely denied yet. So who knows? That might be the black swan coming in on the 21st.
Isn't he one
I don't
strike
know.
away from getting tossed out of the court?
I don't know if a Chapter
Yeah.
7's in the best interest either, because Chapter 7 is a long process, and we're behind on all that.
Rupi
Ladies
gets
and gentlemen,
MVP of the
ladies,
space, in my opinion, because I'm still sticking with my Chapter 7 prediction. And in addition to that, I just want to say that
wow.
there's an assessment. There was another case where they ruled that a modification wasn't needed, and that had to do with policies that had certain rights for debtors, for the debtors. So, there still is a chance. I think, as somebody said, a rubber stamp. But, I think the odds are important to think about right now.
All right, a little housekeeping, please. We only have a certain number of seats here on the dais. I have a couple people requesting. I don't know, Tecmo, if you want to put a couple more chairs up, we could add another co-host, I think.
Mustard, I got to go pick up my girl from school. So
Bless your
I'll
heart,
step
Rupi.
down.
Bless your heart,
Real
Not a
Rupi. You're a
yield,
problem.
good
real
man.
yield.
That's real
Real
yield.
yield. That's for sure. Thanks for hosting, Tecmo. And I'm
Rupi, I
sure
just
I'll
got to say
log
you
back
were
in.
right about the gas fees.
Thanks, brother. See you guys.
While we have dead air, does anybody want to guess how much Chris Koenig has billed the estate thus far?
Him personally?
Too much.
14?
Yeah,
Too
him
much.
personally.
Too much. Way too much.
Yeah, I say 16 million.
I was saying 14 million.
One man?
No,
Oh, I was
probably
thinking about in
two.
case. Yeah, okay.
No,
$1.
probably two.
$1. I'm going with the Price is Right. $1.
Well, you would have won if it's the right rules.
Suckers.
Go on,
So
Cam. What is it?
Chris Koenig ranks third of about 1,000 professionals, and out of 10 fee statements, he has billed $3.8 million personally.
What does Wilford have?
He is number two. He has billed
See, I knew it.
$5.2 million.
The most useless man in this entire process.
Well, he's the second most useful by dollars.
I've had with Keith has just been confrontational argument, like just that's how you get billable hours. Just argue with everybody.
So
Well,
you're
you'd
saying
be
you got
mad
your
too if
money's
the
worth.
plugs never took.
I don't think I've ever wanted so much bad things to happen to any individual like I do for Keith Wolford.
Who's number one, Cam?
Dude, now imagine if he actually won New York AG, how he would have run the fucking New York, the SDNY. I mean, if that guy actually had political power, like on a state scale, like over the entire financial system, basically he would have been the top regulator, right?
Well,
Wow.
the good thing about Good thing about Keith is he doesn't actually do anything. He just bills. So it probably wouldn't have been okay.
We have another Kirkland person is number one, if anybody wants to guess.
It's Nash.
Ross?
It's Nash.
Bingo. Simon got it. It is Ross Quasnestedt with 5.5 million.
So, gentlemen, sorry to cut in here. So, what does this then actually mean for the 31st of December? Just
21st.
another 21st. Sorry, just another really like messed up Christmas like we had last year. I mean, I saw us all.
Somebody just posted that the hearing was postponed to the 11th of January. Is that correct?
No, that is
No.
the substantial contribution one. Remember they talked about it in court yesterday, that if we could adjourn that for whenever. We don't care about that. The 21st is more important for the plan. So
Got it.
the plan is still the 21st, yes.
Is someone talking?
No, Alexander, go ahead.
Again, the question stands: what is the 21st in for? What we all understood, or like how I understand it now, is okay. Even wait longer, and probably I have to go to everybody who I kind of signed up, and thanks God it was just really, I think, 5 people, what I said, who were close to me, and tell them, I guess we have to vote again. They will look at me and say, like, are you
You got to
crazy?
wait till the 21st on that one. You just wait till the 21st. It's going to be a plan. The new plan, if they can go forward, they're going to hear their objections. I don't know if Glenn's going to rule from the bench, but he said he doesn't really rule from the bench that much, if at all. So it might be a week later, or it could be the next day. He might want to get it done before Christmas, though.
Yeah, what it is, Alex, is Celsius, the UCC have put forward their case of why they think this should be approved and it doesn't require a revote. And the US trustee, which I haven't read yet, someone might be reading it, has said that it does require a revote. And I don't know whether
It does.
Galaxy.
I read the opening statement, Simon, and the opening statement is everything that you think it would be, which is Koenig's words coming back to bite him. As we all listened to court that day, 2 months ago, when Judge Glenn said, "Why are we paying BRICS $300,000 a month? Why am I
Oh,
signing
you
this
know she was
motion?"
coming back with that.
Yeah, and he says, that is highly unusual. I don't know that I've ever done that before. And Chris Koenig said, "Well, Judge, OWD is a part of this bankruptcy plan. It's a part of the disclosure statement. They're actually assisting us with current work, and we need to be able to turn on a moment's notice to OWD, and they're doing significant work to be ready, right, to turn to OWD." Chris said it in court to the judge, and those words are now coming to haunt him, because that's basically the opening statement. So, which is that we voted for the OWD. It was anticipated, and this new mini mining co plan is so materially different that it demands a revote. The truth is, though, as I'm thinking about this, Aspiring, I think you're still on speaker. The truth is, if it goes to appeals, if it goes to the 11th Circuit for an appeal, which will take months and months if they even hear it, because I don't think we can go for interlocutory appeal at this point because the plan is already approved. It would be quicker just to goddamn resolicit the vote than to have it appealed and wait months to hear from an appeals court. Seriously. Sharon, do you have any input? Would it not? Or am I crazy?
Well, I mean, that is a possible path. There's also the option to just do a motion for reconsideration because there is a new information, and that's good. Thank you, you two, that I'm on the right path, and that's probably a more efficient way to reopen. Entering a new, more doable plan because there's new information available. For instance, the viability of the plans through how funded they were or weren't able to raise capital and such. Because my understanding is that bankruptcy is around emerging with a going concern, and they've got to make certain those building blocks are in place.
Sean, Or guys, again, how I understand it is when we have to revote, right? So we already voted because we
No,
said it.
actually, Alexander, not necessarily. A motion for reconsideration would not necessarily invoke or require a revote.
Sharon, I understand it, but this again, it would not necessarily. I think we all are clear that we talked about Newco. We know, okay, a new company is 98% of risk. Let's say only 90%. In 90%, it fails, in 10%, it succeeds. And it said, yeah, we actually have the mining. Yeah, actually, you know what? We bring you public in this period of time, and then we see from there. So we know now that they said no, you're not going public, never ever with the ether staking, and when yeah,
Yeah,
you
Alex,
can
that
also.
doesn't matter because we're not talking about what plan. It's just literally what, if we have to create a new plan and we go, this is just what is the fastest way to exit.
Yes, again, all I can say is the longer we are in here, right, the more of the crypto it costs. Okay, I mean, again, with the upside of this technology, you probably could make dollar whole, and this is probably the play. But as longer we spend here, that's why how I understood why I got everybody to look at the plan, translated it, to explain it to them, because I explain them if this does not go through, they go to an orderly wind down where still the company is in control of the assets and they can distribute what's left. So now we
Sharon,
say,
Sharon, your motion for reconsideration, what are we reconsidering? What would be the relief that's being requested to the
Well, I'm
court?
glad you said that word relief because I was also going to note in, let me answer that question in just a second, or at least expound on it. There is no specific request for relief in the U.S. trustees filing today. It just, says as the court may deem just and appropriate. So, wish there would have been some more specificity on the request sought by the trustee.
So
And
does it? Oh,
go ahead, Simon.
no, you go, Sharon. I interrupted.
No, I was going to hop on to the second part of the question. So let's chat about the first.
I just wanted to answer Alex's original question. What does he tell the people that he knows? And the 21st is about, does Judge Glenn agree with the U.S. trustee, or does Judge Glenn agree with the UCC and Celsius? That's what I think the 21st is about. Sorry, you carry on, Sharon.
So, Crypto Miami, you asked what a motion for reconsideration could be asking to reconsider.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's various elements that could be chipped away at, right? The plan as we see as the different bidders have clarified what they could do. So, in other words, the fact pattern that they bring has changed. So that could be an element. Now, I'm not familiar with in U.S. bankruptcy court what the level, and this might be something that Aspiring or Grizzly or someone would know, but to what standard a motion for reconsideration for any element of the case needs to be raised to. And then, just to throw out there, the disposition or the determination of our rights to claim and all that could be poked in also. But I think we're well down the road on that. I think it's more focusing on what has changed within the plan offerings.
So I'm interested in this concept of an appeal. Now, who's going to appeal this? I mean, we're saying our worry is that the judge. Let's say the judge does agree with the UCC. Who's going to be who's going to be the party that would appeal this and draw this out and make it go to the district court or what?
There's already
Yeah.
3 appeals.
Bricks, the
Yeah, there's already 3
trustee,
appeals. Yeah.
and you never. I don't know how the stalking
Bricks
horse
is
bid
out of
has to
business.
do with
Well,
this also.
Brick's settled.
Are those
Brick's settled.
Bricks
objections
is
or
settled.
appeals?
It's YOLO, Otis,
And Johan and
and
Loans.
Johan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are filed appeals to the case.
Yeah, they've begun the appeal process, those 3.
Okay.
Michael,
To
Yes,
answer
sir.
your question, the America CV Station Group case was filed. Sorry, I'm just getting over an illness, respiratory. May 14th, 2019. The bankruptcy plan was confirmed on June 3rd, 2020. The case was terminated on March 5th, 2021, and the 11th Circuit delivered its decision on January 5th, 2023.
Exactly. Exactly. We're better off revoting
That's the
than
point.
we're
Revote.
better off revoting than and just taking the 2 months to get it done right.
I'm
Then
sure people
take
are
it.
listening, in this space, perhaps, that matter. And listen, revoting right now is the right move, to Michael's point. You don't want to be
Well, how
stuck
Aspire,
long does
in the appellate
Aspire,
courts.
hold on, guys. Aspire, okay, when we say it's revoting, can it be at least, okay, you have until then and then? When you do not go
it
vote,
has to
then
be
it's
30
by
days?
default? Yes, but then
The-
at least it's by default, okay? Because when you did not go into the voting, you just left it and you got like some of crypto, some of equity when you eligible for that, right? When you did nothing. So that we at least can say, okay, we revote, but even when you don't do it, it's this default and period.
yeah, it's what it was originally. It defaulted. And that's how the voting works.
And if you
I
really
mean,
want to know,
they could still.
I bet you K&E knew this was coming. And by the way, they're number one grossing law firm in the world again. You guys have no idea the kind of business they do. It's insane. Restructuring,
Well, that's why
they're number one
the
in
one person got up
restructuring.
in court yesterday.
They have their own technology to do what we call side letter deals. I don't know if you guys know what side letters are. They're like side pockets. It's like deals on the side that could go like 50, 100 pages long. They have tech to incorporate all these side pocket letters into some legal who knows what, Aladdin type system. They're the 900-pound gorilla, and they're as sophisticated as it comes, and I'm sure they knew this was coming.
Aspire, I totally agree with you. And again, I think like the rug is here, and that's why Simon always says from the scam. He wrote, "You get your coins back." Okay, so we all know Judge Glenn just looks at the traditional finance law and says, "Okay, the bankruptcy is based on the petition date prices." Again, that's why he talks always about the scam. So, guys, to really just again, I can only echo Mustard. We have to get out. We have to say, okay, then we revote and give us at least back what's there, okay, and then we can still prosecute him or do whatever, okay. But I agree with that. When this goes on a half, like for another year, let's say, I mean, there is definitely more than a 50% chances that dollar from a dollar point of view, we might be all get whole again. So what kind of case do we have then?
I still think we don't need a revote, right? We have an orderly wind down procedure that we all voted on, and that's the appropriate thing to implement now. And the question is whether this mining company thing fits within the four corners of the orderly wind down. The trustee clearly thinks it doesn't, and Loans is going to be objecting. But if they made a compliant version of the plan, if the judge thinks that the mining company as proposed does not fit within it, they could just simply implement that. Because, I mean, let's face it, nobody gives a shit what we vote on anyway. Why go through the ruse? We were all strong armed into voting for this plan that nobody really liked. Why go through this step again? Just give us an orderly wind down, end this. Don't drag it on for longer.
Oh,
And
how long does the soliciting process take? I know the vote's 30 days, but how long is the soliciting process?
There's a notification period, right, for the revote.
Grizzly, we
Yeah.
can. I think we can agree that
Yes.
every day longer, right, costs us additional money. And what Cam said,
I'm just saying which way is the fastest way? Like how do we like? I have about a 95% guarantee that we're going to have to go through this process, but we need to figure out what the fastest way through that process is. It's 30 days for a vote. What else has to be done?
The notification of the vote. There's a window that it's filed on the docket that a new vote is taking place, right? Do you know that, Cam? That there's a window, a notification period of a vote. That has to happen. Then all the mail has to be sent out, all the letters, all the notification that a vote, the ballots.
So again, come back to Cam, what you said, that actually the vote might be not necessary. So again, the question is, how do we can stop this, that we prolong this whole stuff, okay? Because what we see is nobody's doing it for free. It's only us three sitting here debating, getting nothing out of it. So I don't know.
I guess my view is I don't understand exactly why we need a revote. I mean,
Vote if you
if the
vote.
argument here is that this is a form of the orderly wind down. I mean, it seems a reasonable argument that the judge could accept, and this isn't redoing the same plan. I mean, that plan is done, so we're moving on to the orderly wind down, and this is what the orderly wind down is. I don't
Chris, I
understand.
think it's possible. Chris,
Yeah,
I think it's possible, but it's also possible that the U.S. trustee disagrees with you.
I agree, and I think that
As far,
the courts
So, but
90% of the time rule with the government because they are the government, and that's unfortunate. And but I do think if the judge sees that this is just a fight over the spoils of Celsius, maybe he can have some compassion upon the creditors and make a fair ruling here.
Yeah, and the trustee has tire marks all over her body throughout this case. It's not like she's had her way on very many issues.
oh, I don't disagree with that. I don't think he sounded entirely receptive when he asked her about will she be filing an objection. It was more of an acknowledgement, like it was something he was going to have to deal with one way or the other. But if she makes a cogent argument, and there is that possibility, certainly.
but Mustard, also coming back to again to the that we say, okay, probably not a revote is necessary to the orderly wind down. What I understand is, does it now turn out that they're actually not prepared for the orderly wind down? Because what Simon said, okay, actually the more costs are involved with the orderly wind down instead of this 50 million. I mean, then whose fault is that then? Because I think what everybody understood, that's why I even got these people to vote and say, have at least look at it and we translate it together and all that stuff, is because I told them, if this is not working, it's automatically orderly wind down, and then everybody gets a fair distribution.
Well,
So,
Alexander, that you're not far off. It seems that that's the direction we're going. I get the impression at this point the question is, what will the nature of that orderly wind down be, and to get there, will we have to go to another vote? They're not going. I don't see them open. They're not certainly not going to open things up to bidding. I can't. Are they? No, are they? That wasn't a rhetorical question. I'm genuinely asking.
I don't know.
Well, basically, opportunists might see this opportunity to try and get their plan in, and then they put in objections, and you just go through all that shit again, where they're like,
Well,
"No, I've
fair
got a
enough, fair
better
enough.
plan."
But if it comes forward as an orderly wind down, then that's part of that consideration. I don't know. I don't know. Listen. I'm on board. I'm on board with getting out. I'm ready to go. I'm over it. Heartbroken in the beginning. I'm even more heartbroken now after being put through the meat grinder. And I'm reminded of the great Jeffords Miller, retired Florida Circuit Court judge, who once said to me, once you've visited the sausage factory and you've seen how the sausage is made, you will lose your taste for sausage. And he wasn't kidding.
Mustard, I'm sorry to disagree because I can never get over this. Okay, first I was played by the guy called Mishinsky, and now I'm played by the system. Okay, I cannot get over this, but that's a point for another discussion, I would say.
Well, and
I
now
mean,
you see
again,
why I'm here. I was played by the system, and I'm a Viking, so they got an enemy for life.
that's why I hope that you have a cold storage wallet address where I can send you some Bitcoin someday.
Yeah, just make sure it's a ledger. I'm happy to read, by the way. I mean, obviously, the objection is on the docket, and the introduction is 3 paragraphs long. I'm happy to read it to the room if you want to hear what Sheriff Cornell's objection is. It's not long. You want to hear the summary? Here, let's
Go for
just
it,
do it.
Michael.
Yeah.
Without objection, go ahead, please.
Without objection, I'm going to read the introduction, okay?
I prefer healthier
Use
to
your
read it.
best radio voice.
Well, I'm a good reader. So, okay, introduction, Sheriff Cornell. The plan, which was confirmed 1 month ago, contained a primary transaction, the Fahrenheit transaction, which was entirely dependent on SEC approval. However, in light of the significant hurdles required to obtain such approval, the plan also contained a toggle transaction, the brick transaction, which would focus solely on the debtor's mining business going forward and would initiate an orderly wind down of the debtor's remaining assets. Despite having 2 different paths, each with its own court-approved sponsor, Fahrenheit and the brick respectively, the movements seek to approve and implement a completely different transaction called the new transaction. The new transaction involves new parties, requires different capital contributions, and will change recoveries for creditors. The movements claim that the plan, which was confirmed less than a month ago, contemplated such a pivot in light of the high level of insecurity regarding the SEC's approval of a new co. But the new transaction is not the toggle featured in the plan that was solicited, voted for, and ultimately confirmed. The plan did contain a toggle feature, complete with a backup bidder that, upon confirmation and belief, was ready and able to facilitate its commitment under the plan. However, the debtors and the committee determined at a date unknown that the debtors would no longer honor such a backup commitment, despite having argued strongly for the imposition of a breakup fee of $1.5 million, which has already been paid, and reimbursement of all reasonable fees and expenses up to $300,000 per month, which have already been reimbursed on a rolling basis, for the backup bidder on the grounds that it was necessary to preserve the debtor's optionality to quickly pivot to an orderly wind down without further cost and delay. That was the court quote that I was talking about. Final paragraph. Through the motion, the movement seek the new transaction with US Bitcoin on what the movements have unilaterally deemed to be favorable changes to the mining management agreement as compared to the backup transactions described in the planned and disclosure statement. Thus, by the movement's own admission, the new transaction includes changes, but these changes that the movements have disclosed deviate so far from any acceptable post-confirmation modification of a plan that there can be no other choice but to implement resolicitation and a revote. Absent such, the court cannot adopt any modification that materially alters the plan and adversely affects a claimant's treatment. The relief requested, if granted, would be tantamount to confirmation of a plan that is different than the one that was proposed by the debtors, approved by the creditors, and confirmed by this court. Accordingly, the motion and the new transaction must be denied absent further solicitation, voting, and confirmation of a new plan. That's it. That's the opening.
Okay, one way to translate this, again, this is going to come down to Bitcoin price. So if there's an argument, one's just thinking aloud, if there's an argument that the percentages are getting higher, which they are because of Bitcoin increases, then the percentage increase, then this is an improvement upon the plan and it doesn't materially change it. But then if you want to just go like for like and say, well, the Bitcoin price would have been up under both arguments, then those are the games that are going to be played, and either Judge Glenn's can either take the percentages compared to the old percentages, then you can favor Celsius and UCC, or the US trustees going to hold because they'll say no, the percentages are different, and then just Bitcoin price determines this whole thing and what the legal argument around that is. Anyone think differently? Oh.
I guess not. I mean, the objections are going to come in. There's 3 appeals hanging out there. We'll just see what transpires on the 21st. I imagine we'll know more then.
Yeah, one thing I do.
I'm just going to read some spicy language just for fun here in the final paragraphs. It is clear that the movements, the debtor, it is clear that the debtor is not only controlling the narrative, but are also controlling which details of which transaction they want to highlight in each document. Yeah. She also brings up.
That's pretty good.
She also brings up the point that in the Fahrenheit transaction, the Fahrenheit transaction included $450 million contribution from the debtors in liquid cryptocurrency, whereas the new motion refers to $225 million in fiat contribution from the debtors. There's no explanation as to how, when the debtors converted that $225 million worth of crypto to cash, where such cash has been held. It has not been accounted for in monthly operating reports. What impact timing will have on this liquidation, or why the debtors pivoted to fiat contribution as opposed to cryptocurrency contribution. Whoop, bingo.
We have breaking news. Mike Cagney posted, we have decided not to file an objection and orderly wind down competitive proposal. After much discussion with multiple parties, our concern is that such filing could contribute to pushing things towards resolicitation or at the very least slow down the process for exit. And our first objective is for creditors to get out of, I'm assuming he left out of bankruptcy. All right, I give him a lot of credit for that.
Can I say, Michael has been proper. Like he's always had his self interest throughout this whole process, but he has been on point in terms of predictions, forecasts, doing what's right, and to me that shows that this was the guy with the most integrity in the whole process.
Yeah, and this is why, like I was saying earlier in the call, I was thinking yesterday we were 75% likely to go to resolicitation because Galaxy and Figure and Bricks have stood down. That's why I flipped it to I think it's much less likely now. Although obviously there's still obstacles with some objections for the trustee and loans ad hoc.
Yeah, the loans, if the deadline was 4 p.m., it's 4:20 p.m. Eastern time, and the loans objection has not hit the docket yet. So,
And just that was the Michael Arrington issue that I believe Michael Cagney had more integrity than Michael Arrington in this process.
Looks like we picked the wrong mic.
Right.
He didn't get to pick.
Nova Wolf should have been selected. That's where it all went wrong.
Yeah, it's very disruptive to change your partner midway through the process. That definitely backfired.
And they had the best deal.
Honestly, I could have been the plan sponsor. I would have charged a penny, a fraction of these costs. We could have gone out of this thing in months ago. Would have sold the entire thing to a real mining company, and we would have all gotten checks in the mail.
Well, Tony, 21st of December 2022 was when I Bank to the Future filed the orderly wind down deal with Securitize that was going to do it without the fees.
Yeah, but what you should have done is you should have mailed the bid, and inside there you should have put a stack of cash for whoever opens it up, and you would have gotten picked.
Yeah, my
Simon, did you say
mistake was thinking
December?
December the 21st, 2022, we filed the orderly wind down after we realized that FTX had changed the market and the reorg was no longer going to work.
Are you sure that wasn't November?
No, November was when we filed the the reorg plan, and then FTX happened in the middle. So then on December the 21st, we filed the orderly wind down, which was 0 fees. Everybody just gets all their assets, and we partner with Securitize because they're already SEC approved.
Oh, okay. I was confused because that's the one that leaked the first week of December. But now it makes sense. It fits the timeline. Sorry, it didn't work out.
What else you got, Michael? You reading anything more interesting?
yeah, I'm just going through the points. The SEC just filed a reservation of rights, limited objection with reservation of rights. Just a couple paragraphs, nothing interesting. Yeah, I'm just going through Cheryl Cornell's points. I mean, ultimately, listen, we all watched the judge in the hearing say, "Go work it out with the U.S. trustee." I guess we'll have to see what happens, right? Someone thinks it's 5 p.m. is the deadline, so we'll have to see if loans if Adler gets it in on time.
Hopefully, Loans thinks tomorrow is the deadline.
So I'm not seeing anything per objection around. It's mainly around the orderly wind down plan and such. There doesn't seem to be anything around the current management of the assets or the lack of efficient management and productiveness of the current assets, which that's kind of a miss on her part. So where to from here? We do need to think about the calculus and who's still involved in the decision making and the proposaling, and that effectively has not changed.
Speechless. Tecmo, is anyone trying to come up and ask questions or anything?
I can't actually add people for some reason.
I think the stage is full. That's probably right.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you can drop me down. My only last thought, and this just goes back to the filing of appealing. I mean, the only thing we're really worried about, because if appeals are already is like the U.S. trustee appealing this to the next level, not the other appeals aren't appeals to the unfairness of the pivot to the orderly wind down, or the germaneness of the, or whatever, the germaneness of, if this is really consistent with what the plan was passed. So, I mean, I think that would be the only concern, right? Is if the U.S. trustee would appeal, if the judge happened to rule in favor of the orderly wind down or the plan as it is now, right?
My understanding is there's an exemption from this change, which is if they're better off under this than the other, and that's what I think UCC and Celsius are going to argue, and then US trustee is going to say no, and then Judge Glenn decides whether he agrees or disagrees.
So we just really need to hope that the judge has compassion upon us and sees it the way we see it right now.
No, he won't. He won't have
be
compassion. He'll be concerned about whether he makes a precedent that screws up the bankruptcy code. So as long as it's legal and legal, again, we're all playing Twitter lawyers. But you've got Whiting case.
Oh, sorry.
You've got Whiting case and Kirkland and Ellis that have to argue that it's legal, and the U.S. trustee is saying that it's not. You have to re-solicit. But my understanding is that as long as everyone's better off under this plan than what we voted upon, or it is the same plan, then Judge Glenn can agree with it, and it doesn't create any case law or precedent, I don't think.
So, and Simon, I don't, I guess, because I don't want this, because I see what's currently the outcome by BlockFi with this, okay? So, again, up there, you have also two accounts, an earn account and a wallet account. Whatever you had on your wallet account, you could withdraw with even like withdrawing fees, $11 or something. And the other stuff is just how I understand it. You agreed to the terms of the bankruptcy case prices, and that's what you get back in dollars. I don't know if I get this in a stable coin. I don't know if I get this by a mail or a check in the post, or what I should even do with this, okay? Where I should cash this in. Again, I hope I understand the Judge Glenn has to look at traditional finance law. But how do you even then distribute the dollar claim? Okay.
Yeah, but that's all covered in the plan. So if
that's what I said.
Currently,
so the biggest scam, or
that would
one
be
of
a
the
new
scam,
plan.
Again, you talked about scams. So the first scam is that even we dollarize it without, again, the upside of this new technology. And the second is now that we get paid only in dollar, but we actually already voted for orderly wind down. That was, I mean, again, I ran through this.
No, the
voting
scam was
plan.
that they put in the plan that it's 50 million when it wasn't 50 million. And so
okay, I understand, but we all voted for the orderly wind down, okay? And again, how much more is it? Because I ran through this voting process, I think 10 times, because I did it with 5 different people, and I translated it and looked at it and understood, okay, default, not default, and all that stuff. But what I was definitely clear about it, of chaos, if this is not working, because everything what we say is time critical, we go to orderly wind down, because then everything else does not make sense. It's just, I guess, when, maybe, perhaps, probably. Again, we know that NewCo is a risk. Say 10% only make it, and that's actually high. I think only 2 or 5% make it, right? And we said with this 10%, and here this is the plan, going public, having the mining with the Bitcoin energy, or proof of work, and having the staked ETH. I could understand
they're arguing over whether the orderly wind down is different or not, because Mining Co versus the brick orderly wind down. That's the only argument. It's nothing to do with UK.
I understand. So again, I would argue also that, okay, when we all knew, okay, is a public listing really that fast? We all see it, how long it takes with Coinbase, right? So when they would say, okay, we cannot agree, or we cannot fulfill on this in the next, let's say, 5 years, but we could agree on, we have the mining and the proof of work, the staking and the proof of work mining, then I would probably agree, okay, it's not such a substantial change to the plan. But of course, having like 2 of 3 pieces taken away, of course, it is a different company. And then again, when we say, okay, we have 90% of the chance of a failure and 10%, I mean, what we currently did is we definitely only have 2% of succeeding that. And what I see is that we did not even be able, even with Azure or whatever, to plug in these 40,000 miners, which are still sitting in shoeboxes. Okay, no chance. Find out.
I feel your frustration, Alex. I feel it.
At this point, I think we should just sell it all.
Well, Alex is pointing to a gap or a failure in performance of duties here, right? His point of, for a year and a half, certain machines have been idle. It's become material in what
Sharon,
that would.
I sorry to interrupt you there. I get your point that it's a failure, but again, the problem is that it's time critical, and we're sitting here around and having nobody to actually at least plug it in. Okay, it's like having all these devices, and we don't. It does not help us to argue about, okay, it's the problem because we're in this bankruptcy. That's why we cannot move, because we have to ask everybody and stuff. The result is the same, guys. We have 127 days or 125 days to the halving. Okay. I mean, and we see it, right? Or even on the estimation that we say, actually, we said mining, okay, prices go up. We also, what we said, we mine to 28,000 a coin, but at least we would say, that the terahashes per second, we can compete with this. We already see that definitely not getting easier, even not with the halving. Okay, I don't think that so much hash power is dropping off. For sure, very probably one of them.
There's a couple funny things. I'm just reading through Shara Cornell's document. There's a couple funny things in there. One of them is she calls out Ferraro by saying that this plan was moved by a potentially problematic consultant, talking about Ferraro, and mentions in a footnote that in the original OWD, he was not a plan administrator, but now he's got a deal sweetener as the plan administrator, making millions of dollars, making $200,000 a month and up to millions of dollars. And so he's conflicted. She calls him out. And then one of the things she's making that point, Sharon, which I mentioned earlier, which is why she thinks it needs a resolicitation, is in the original OWD, right? That $450 million was funded with liquid cryptocurrency. And the OWD was funded, it didn't mention, but it was funded with $50 million, but the origin of that wasn't mentioned, but fiat. Now in this new plan, they're talking about $225 million of liquid cryptocurrency being liquidated. And so what Shara Purnell is saying, that is so materially different because the creditors should be able to vote, because they may want that 225 they may want that liquid cryptocurrency back as a distribution rather than having it liquidated to going to a mining entity. So it's the liquidation of that cryptocurrency that's materially different in the plan that she's saying creditors may want that back. And that's one of the major reasons why it's materially different and needs a resolicitation.
Imagine being a humble Ecuadorian potato farmer and getting wrapped up in a bankruptcy and making millions from it.
Maybe not so humble.
With no knowledge or experience in public Bitcoin mining, which you're supposed to be supervising and having a fiduciary over?
He did buy his first 5% of a Bitcoin a whole year ago. So that sounds like a lot of experience to me.
Well, I think Asher went into Bitcoin mining without ever owning or loving Bitcoin either, right? I mean, he's never talked about his Bitcoin
And
journey.
Ferraro is refusing in industry experience or advice. Absolutely refusing.
Well, to be fair, it would probably just confuse him.
Ferraro doesn't even have experience as a plan administrator.
I'm going to have to end this soon, so if anybody has any other thoughts, feel free to go.
I have a quick one. Now, what Miami just was talking about the liquidating the crypto, wouldn't that have issue with the audit now on where that money came from? Because the issue on that was the reason why we couldn't move that stuff over.
I think they're trying to use that as a workaround.
Okay.
So it's cash and not crypto, therefore you don't
Hey,
have to
Premier
audit.
Pros, it's
But it still doesn't make sense. But again, this is the logic that's gotten us to this
All
point.
right, but you understood what I was thinking, right?
No, I get what
Okay.
you're thinking, and you're right. But this is the type of logic that brought us here.
Well, that's why the SEC has the reservation of rights now on this. Maybe that's another fucking sticking point for them. I don't know. That's what my thoughts were.
Right. Because what they do with us, with creditors, is they give us these half-truths. Half of it's fake, half of it's not real, half of it's a lie. But they give us enough that it kind of sounds like it makes sense. And they tried to do that with the SEC, and here we are. And they're going to do it again. Oh, no, it's not. Doesn't need to be audited. It's just cash. Where did it come from? I don't know. Bank account.
That's an excellent point, Grizzly. Excellent fucking point, right? That we're gonna get down, and then the SEC gets the plan and is like, dude, you're so right. I didn't even think about that.
That's another reason
Exactly
why I
right.
think Cagney put that out, because he knows it's going to soliciting, so he doesn't need to put an objection in it. And he wants. He is he seems like an all right guy. Doesn't seem like he's been trying to help. He was the stalking horse bid, so I have nothing against the guy. But maybe that's why he's doing it, to make himself present even better than he does.
Cagney wants the listing on his ATS. That's his agenda.
Yeah, it says it right there. Yeah,
yeah, but he's willing to help us in any way to try and get that to happen. That's his agenda, and that's just really clear.
Well, is there any way we can go back to the stalking horse, since it was the stalking horse bid? No, never mind. That adds a lot of time on. I'm sorry.
You're making me feel sick.
No, I'm trying to think every scenario I can think of since I've been, and time didn't factor in yet to that one. But yeah, it would take a lot longer.
I think I'm going to submit a bid. I will sell everything.
Go on, Tony. Let's do it, man.
Get in your time machine and start typing.
I'm going to sell everything.
Dude, I mean, come on. What did Asher put up? 12 million? We can get that together. You and me.
But there's no proof of funds. There's no proof of funds.
Yeah, because the funds aren't there. They couldn't come up with it. They don't have the funds, guys. I mean, everyone laughs when I say it, but US Bitcoin is broke.
Well, they have all that. They have that. They have a HUD 8 HODL Bitcoin position.
Yeah, that's going to go
the HUD 8
great with their
bailout.
shareholders. Their shareholders are going to love that.
Oh, I love my stock being cut.
You mean the shareholders that think they're taking over Celsius Mining? Those shareholders? Okay.
Same ones that they refuse to just tell them that that's not the case. That HUD 8 US Bitcoin isn't acquiring Celsius Mining completely. They won't say no, that's not actually happening. Yeah, those same shareholders.
Yeah, Sharon, Asher got a lesson in, like, he's never been an officer in a public company before, so he went on Spaces with Big Sue, and it was just his typical chit chat as a private company. Just it doesn't work for public companies, because people were questioning, like, when he throws out the language like, oh, we have whatever 18 megawatts under management, like, the language he uses matters, and everyone was so confused. Wait. Is it self-mining? Is it hosting? Is it management? He couldn't get the language right? It was pretty funny.
Well, he mixes the language. He doesn't understand it. That's the point.
That makes me want to take my life savings and invest in that guy.
Yeah, exactly. He mixes words. If you don't know what he's talking about, it sounds fantastic. But if you do know what he's talking about...
All right, anyone else before I close this up?
Yes, as part of my bid, a portion of the funds will go to digging up any and all dirt on every attorney involved, and we will ruin all of their lives. Guaranteed.
I'm in.
There you go, Harry King. Harry King votes double yes.
It sounds like the BitBoy bid.
Yeah,
And
we can hire a BitBoy for the documentary and expose.
And if they don't have any dirt, then we will make stuff up.
Why don't we just hire Ben.Eth to do something for us?
What? Don't hang up, Tecmo. Guess what just hit the docket?
Yep, loans, right?
Loans at 438. Mr. Adler, preliminary opposition of the ad hoc group of borrowers to the joint motion of the debtors and the committee for the entry of a new order granting the new plan. All right, Mr. Adler, this will be fun reading. All right, I'm going to go read
Michael.
this. You want me to read the opening statement?
Yes, please.
Tecmo, you have 5 minutes? It's 6 paragraphs.
Okay. I have 2 minutes.
Okay. I'll just go I'll just go. Yeah, I'll go into the heart of his statement. The joint motion, this is loans. The joint motion should be denied for 3 reasons. First, the changes it proposes, and in particular, the trebling of capital are material, undisclosed, and unanticipated modifications to a confirmed plan. While the movements seek approval of their amendments under the guise of implementation under Section 105 of the Bankruptcy Code, proposals that divert estate assets and change the distribution mix are in actuality modifications of the plan under Section 1125. So basically, it's material. It's a material change to the plan, not an immaterial one. Second, the movements have made no effort to comply with Section 1127 in terms of disclosure. While they enthusiastically assert that the SEC guidance paves the way for the debtors' Bitcoin mining operation to emerge as a new publicly traded company owned by the debtors, they have provided nothing to show that there's any likelihood of MineCo being approved as a public company. Okay. Third, of course, it's much more detailed than that. And third, the estate fiduciaries assert that the approval of the new OWD plan will allow an effective date in early January. This timeframe conveniently ignores many items that need to be addressed. The manner in which the debtors seek to establish the disputed and contingent claims reserve without any disclosure to impacted creditors raises serious questions of due process. The debtors have not indicated what claims are being estimated, how the estimates were established, and apparently seek to establish these reserves without providing any notice to the affected claimants. Tony, this is what you were talking about, right? That the debtor has not done any accounting for the outstanding claims, right? That they have to withhold.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that didn't take the class claim settlement, so they have claims against Celsius, and for every dollar amount, that has to be withheld.
If you guys want,
Yeah.
I'm happy to keep the room open. I just won't be around to do anything.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then hold on, and I'll just read the final thing here. Finally, the proposed changes materially modify a confirmed plan that is currently on appeal. The debtors' public statements acknowledge that they are requesting plan amendments, and the order requested expressly modifies the confirmation order. The court lacks jurisdiction to make such wholesale revisions to an order currently on appeal. There's a clear answer to the dilemma created by the motion. Implement the original OWD plan.
That's for the jurisdiction stuff.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Yeah, obviously it's much more than that, but
yeah, hopefully that presents the two most likely options. Either this somehow gets approved as is, or they have to scope it down to fit within the OWD that's already been voted on and approved.
Either of those are good, actually, if we can get that done ASAP somehow.
All right, folks, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to go read these documents. I'll catch you all later, or see you in court on the 21st. Cheers.
See you in court.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming up.
Thanks, Tecmo, for holding it.
Thanks, Tecmo.
I think you guys can understand my rather clumsy
Thank you.
remarks regarding jurisdiction now, right? That's a difficult thing to answer right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll soon find out.
All right. See you guys.
Thank you, Tecmo.
I'll just say that there's breaking news.